And welcome to the Redeye stream number 205. Ding dong, the elf is gone, the elf is gone, the elf is gone. Ding dong, the fucking elf is gone. MC, you didn't think he was going to be fired. I told you all along he was fucking out of here. Fuck this Keebler elf looking motherfucker, dude. Like, what's up? How's it going? All things considered, the election didn't go well in Oregon, but now that I know Jeff Sessions is gone, I am celebrating my first drink of beer right now. Go ahead, MC. Take it away. No? All right. Fuck off. We'll go on to somebody else. Maestra. Dude, Jeff Sessions got fucking fired, right? Isn't that the best thing you've heard all fucking year?
Man,
isn't that amazing?
Ice cream a la carte after a really good election. I mean, as I was telling you just before the stream started, I mean, we were at a historic turnout for a midterm election, and midterms, at least since Reagan, have been a counter win for the party not in presidency. It doesn't mean party not in power. That means party not in presidency very specifically. And what? Republicans picked up more senator seats. The Libertarians, at least in Kansas, took the only center left and left positions on the ballot. They didn't even run fucking Democrats this year. And all across the board, it's a plus 10, plus 15 for Dems in the House. So now Trump can run under them being obstructionist cunts and sweep even further in the next actual presidential election. I mean, realistically, this was a really good election, you know, at least as far as counterculture to SJW stupid nonsense. I'd kind of like our economy to keep going the way it's going. I mean, I don't like that Trump's a deficit spender, but there's no way that he could possibly earn us out of deficit through deregulation and booming economy if he was handed a referendum by the Democrats to completely take over and fuck his shit up. So, I mean, that's what I was trying to get at earlier, where it's like, dude, don't get depressed. Yeah, don't think that Jeff Sessions is the only good news out of this. I mean, dude.
But there's some. I apologize for
no.
Right at the minute I had to jump out and take a call, which I'm finished with now. But the thing about Jeff Sessions firing is first of all, what Trump did is he took the entire election, the entire talk about the election, and the glowing things that people were beginning to try and come up with, how the Democrats were going to go forward, and what they were going to do, and what this means for the country, and just shoveled it, and instead went right back and took total control of the media narrative himself. And even worse is he went right down the line. Not only did he frickin' fire Sessions, he then puts in a person who's basically made comments that are just absolutely frickin' going to causing people to scream, which is one, he said he'll defund, if nothing else, the entire Mueller investigation. All right. And
oh, no shit.
And number two, he's also said, I will indict Hillary. Okay. So that's two. Number three, the first action he took was to sit up there and remove the Mueller investigation from under Rod Rosenstein and said, you're no longer in charge of oversight of the Mueller probe.
All right.
So he just took a wrench and shoved it into the whole gears. Full stop here, right?
My only concern about that is that there's been a lot of talk that Mueller was simply waiting until the end of the midterms before he came out with his thing. And I mean, honestly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere to begin with, but I
think he's caught Mueller up by the short here. You want to know the truth? I don't think Mueller was prepared to end the probe. You got to understand.
No. It definitely was a probe searching for a reason to explain the spending. I definitely agree with that. You know, where Mueller was trying to find a way that he could offer a sacrificial lamb up to the American people to justify why he spent this kind of money. And in that regard, yeah, I definitely don't think he was done. Trump is incredibly good at leading the media around and doing the bread and circuses thing while he actually goes off and does something else. I mean, in that regard,
Well,
that is his excellent
Right, but-
bit of statesmanship.
This endangers the
real
entire
quick.
Mueller. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, real quick. Maestra, before we continue on with the Keebler elf being totally destroyed, do you know how Gary Johnson did in New Mexico? I know you got your ear to the floor when it comes to the Libertarian Party. So,
actually, no, I haven't. I spent a good amount of this morning dealing with state party politics and dealing with that. So I actually haven't really spent any time on regional issues at all. This is I'm sitting down for coffee and a bowl and I'm going to relax. And you're like, hey, I'm doing a stream. I'm like, hey, I haven't done that in a week or so. Let me join in. So
Yeah,
no, unfortunately, I'm woefully
with,
unprepared to answer that question outside of Kansas.
Gary Johnson did 15.5%. The Republican did 30.8%, and the Democrat Martin Heinrich got 53.8%.
holy shit! So if Gary wasn't running, the Republican might have got that vote and maybe beat the Democrat. In other words,
Unlikely.
So this is how.
No,
Yeah.
it's unlikely, because in Kansas, for example, what the Libertarians did in Kansas, because there was a piece out by Pew earlier in the week where the Republicans are sitting at the pseudo left, the center left, the center right, the right, and the extreme right parties. Like that's your choice right now for main parties. And in Kansas anyway, the Libertarians are tucking up the left, the part of the center, and a bit of the center right. So as I said earlier, instead of running a Democrat in Kansas, because we're stupid flyover country and fuck those poor white people in Kansas because we don't give a shit. Thank you, Democrats. I like the fact that they're being open with their racism. Full stop. It's great. The Libertarians swept that. So I see one of the parties getting cannibalized by the Libertarians. They're growing. You know, that with FEC backing, so that way they're guaranteed equal time. They got a lot of local ad buys, and they're actually doing something. I don't really know where the party's going at this point, but it's trying to stay in the center. So that's at least a good sign.
Yeah, all right. Let's go back to the key. Look,
I really can't get over this the blue wave which we saw just sweep across the United States.
Oh, dude, that was the hilarious part, Batman. Like, there wasn't even really a blue wave. There wasn't a blue ripple, really. It seemed like there was a blue fart, and it took over a bit of the house. But, I mean, if you just look, like, typically the way that American politics work is that on the off year of an election, so the off election of from the presidential, you're looking at a full House and Senate sweep to the other party. This is what I was trying to say when we weren't on air. It's like this election went really well for Trump. Even losing the House. And actually, in many ways, losing the House could be better because the Democrats have zero, and I do mean zero, party plan. It's just resist everything. I'm Orange Man Ice Cream, resist all. And it's nothing to run. There's no messaging. There's nothing. I mean,
you're correct, but I would like to get back to that later. I'd like to start staying on sessions right now.
Didn't notice my sarcasm there, did you? It's funny. It's funny though. I mean, yeah, it's more prevalent in the United States, but we're seeing this kind of shift, if not with politicians, at least with the general populace all over the Western world. We're shifting more towards the right, or at least towards common sense and away from social justice.
Well, one of the things that was said that was really, really apropos, and this is done by the Breitbart guy, and it's not Breitbart, it's Bannon, I think is his name, Steve Bannon. He said that your choices, this was during the Trump election, your choices were between either nativist populism from Trump or from globalist populism from Bernie. So I don't really think that you're looking at a right-wing push in the Western world. It's more of a nationalistic push, which is typically right-wing, but we're not seeing like for all of the fucking push for jackbooted thugs and let's go find Nazis everywhere because like half the country's Nazis here or some shit, and purportedly, like, I don't see like it's UK parties remotely conservative or right wing as I would view them as an American, but I hear the same rhetoric about the right wing parties in the UK over here. And what I'm seeing is more of a, hey, I have a right to be a country. I am country X, in my case, American, and that has certain values for being American. Fuck off, I'm an American. And that is more of what I'm seeing, Batman. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm seeing.
Like I said, I honestly think it's because people are getting sick of this insanity that we've been living with. People are pushing back against it.
Well, that's true. I mean, people are pushing against it. They have had enough of the.
You just have to look at what's happening now in Germany, for Christ's sake. Germany, who's been so much under the lefties' thumb.
Well, the devaluation of the local culture and the importation of,
you mean destruction,
foreign cultures, right? Well, devaluation, destruction, how you want to look at it. All right, and the importation of foreign culture that really is an anathema, all right, to Western culture.
Oh,
right, is creating the kind of pushback and the kind of nativism that you're talking about. But let me get back to Sessions, though. Let me tell you, this was what Trump has done is he's set up a fight right now with the Democrats that the Democrats can't win. And what's more is I was going through Twitter, watching the Twitter feeds, and they're like, well, you can't get rid of Rosenstein without cause. He has cause. All right, he has plenty of cause. You can't get rid of Mueller without cause. They have all the emails from these guys. In any kind of sane world, you can't say that they weren't biased. Rod Rosenstein screwed up because once it became known that he was willing to wear a wire, that he said, I'll go ahead and wear a wire. At that point right there, the question comes in, why didn't you recuse yourself from the Mueller probe? You had more reason to recuse yourself than Sessions had to recuse himself. That right there is grounds for removal. Right there is a matter of criminality that needs to be investigated. So Rosenstein, let alone all the other crap that was going on with the FISA and everything else that he should be held accountable for, right? All of that is cause for them to get rid of Rosenstein. Then you get to Mueller. And you have people in the Mueller team where they have emails from the Mueller team basically coordinating public attacks against Trump, all right, with the media. Now, Mueller is in charge of that team. Right there, you have cause to get rid of Mueller. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. You would be hard-pressed to sit up there and tell anybody that isn't grounds for removal. It would be grounds anywhere for removal. In fact, it would be grounds not only of removal, but a criminal investigation launched against him, especially if you coordinate it between what he was doing with Rosenstein, all right, and the information flowing back and forth through there. So the idea that what Trump did is he just basically said, fine, you want to have a fight, Democrats? I'll throw the first punch. And that's exactly what he did with this. And they're going berserk because they're like, well, how do we protect Mueller? How do we protect Mueller? You don't.
Well, MC, a great point on that, too, is a lot of people say that Trump plays 4D chess, and I'm not willing to say that he is. But let's assume for point of argument he is. All right? What would be an excellent way to give the Democrats a perfect platform to be obstructionist cunts over?
CNN.
No, I'm being quite serious. What if the House refuses to do anything for the next 2 years? The way that the current politics are running in the news press is we get more clicks and more views, and higher ratings bump for a couple old people that are still fucking watching cable news. To just run politics nonstop. I mean, it's already started the 2020 election today.
Oh, yeah.
It's already started. It's the day after the fucking midterm elections. There's no time to reflect because they're already starting. So if you look at it through that rubric, by throwing out the Keebler elf and getting rid of his dumb ass and all of the bullshit that's going on in the FBI for the fact, like, we lost one of my fucking favorite senators, Gowdy, over the shit that happened with Sturzak and that incestuous bullshit that's going on in the FBI.
Yeah.
So if that becomes the point of contention, that's a brilliant way to set up the 2020 election right there. Because if the Democrats take the bait and go apeshit like you're saying that they're doing over the fact that Mueller has now been compromised, hashtag raise money now for Mueller. I mean, Jesus God.
you can look on Twitter. You're going to see all sorts of crap out there.
Oh, I
worse than that.
I can't fucking stand that shit.
For the longest time, I was expecting, and admittedly, I was completely wrong about this. And Mad Dodge he's right to gloat on me about this because he did warn me, right? But I was expecting Jeff Sessions to actually do a house cleaning at some point, all right, throughout the Justice Department. That didn't take place, all right. And this guy that they got now, he's basically promised a scorched earth policy through the entire DOJ.
Well, a firebrand would be excellent if that is the lens that this is operating under. I mean, think about it. You have somebody that's going to go in and clean out corruption. Now, remember, Trump ran on draining the swamp specifically. So he's run into a bunch of swamp in these, highly bureaucratic federal law enforcement agencies, and now he's gotten himself a plumber to snake that shit out. I mean,
he's got an exterminator with a flamethrower is what he's got so far. Now, this is what it appears to be. The other thing is does he actually go through it? Is the question.
I haven't heard about this until I joined Stream. So I mean, like I said, I've been locked in local politics all goddamn day. So I mean, I didn't even know what was going on with this nonsense. But I find it relatively amusing that that's a pretty good hypothesis as to what Trump's doing. Because he's always seeming to run something to keep people babbling incessantly like fucking autistic screeching morons about this thing on the left hand while the right hand actually gets something accomplished. And I'm trying to figure out what he's planning on doing with this. And that's the best I can come up with in 10 minutes.
Well, I think that he's playing hardball. I mean, the one thing that you can't say about Trump is that he's a wallflower. Okay, I mean, the guy is a fighter. He always responds. He comes out swinging. And this, I expected something. I didn't expect Jeff Sessions to go down like this. I didn't expect him to already pick his replacement being Matt Whitaker. All right, which totally freaking denudes Rosenstein and takes Rosenstein out of the running, and then have this guy come back and say, yeah, I'll indict Hillary. All right, from previous statements he said that, and in previous statements he said he's going to defund the Mueller probe. He's already on record for saying these things, all right, in public. So just picking him, if he carries through with even one of those, and I personally hope he goes after Hillary first, all right, it's going to be hell debate, because the Democrats, if he goes after Hillary, how are the Democrats going to try and protect her?
Well, they threw Bill under the fucking bus this last election. The new kingmaker from the Democrats is Obama. I mean, that was huge right there. I mean,
he didn't do much kingmaking.
No. Oh, no. If you heard anything for the Democratic platform, like, there was actual talk about fucking Bill fucking chicks and being a rapist and shit that was going on. I mean, the Clintons used to be unfucking touchable because they ran a very mob-esque familia style crime syndicate, at least within the DNC itself.
Oh yeah.
And how they owed favors. And Hillary blew out so many of those, rigging the DNC against Bernie, that they don't have anything left. I mean, nobody in my lifetime has called Chelsea publicly a whiny, entitled bitch before this election.
She's a whiny, entitled bitch.
Yes, but Democrats would never even think of voicing that.
Do you know, if I was Bill Clinton, I'd be going around, I'd be posting about Chelsea with the hashtag not my daughter.
Mr. Ed, your fool has gotten out of the corral again. No, you're right about that. But the other problem, of course, is when it comes to the party stalwarts, the Clintons have all that information. They have all that dirt.
Yeah, but I mean, what good does it do them now? I mean, have you seen a lot of the Democrats are really suffering. I mean, there's a major fracture in the Democratic Party, and they can't hold on to power any longer.
Well,
Half the Democrats are starting to, wean and lean on some of these Democrats that are pro-gun and whatnot, and the other half is starting to move towards the progressive branch of the Democrats. I mean, even in California, Dianne Feinstein, I believe, was challenged, and the person running against her got like 40-something% of the votes. And he's a super progressive and was calling her out and saying she's not harsh enough. That was an election she should have won handily, but she didn't.
Oh, MC, to answer that question about the Clintons and what uses all that information going to do, they're probably going to use it to keep themselves from being prosecuted.
Well, the problem is that they have to sit up there and get the other people within the DNC, all right, to out themselves, and they can't afford to do that right now. They don't have with exactly what 40 ounce was saying. They don't have the leeway to do it. They don't have the leeway because the Ocasio wing of the Democrat Party will not support them, will not protect them.
And neither were the center left, like the center left.
There is no center left.
Well, there is still some Democrats who believe in the Second and First Amendments. Okay, I mean they still exist, MC.
Yeah, like who's?
Yeah, and where were they in the Senate?
What do you mean getting their fucking teeth stomped in by the Hillary Clintons?
No, not during the Kavanaugh hearings. They weren't.
Well, no, we had Cory Booker say that from August to fucking September was not enough time to review certain parts of documents. But no, getting back to what 40 said about Feinstein, Feinstein wasn't charged by a progressive. She was charged by damn near fucking Democratic Socialists. That guy runs a pretty Democratic Socialist campaign and flirts with them all the time. You can't get further left in America than the Green Party that are outright avid communists. So, I mean, that's the amazing part. And to your question as to where the center left is, they voted Republican in 2016. That's what I was saying earlier about how.
I'm talking about the leadership. I'm talking about the leadership.
Okay. Yeah, no, the leadership's not there. They're virtually not there. That's why there was two people that moved over in red states to vote for Kavanaugh on the Democratic side because they were worried about getting a direct challenge because that's the only way they could survive. Because they're basically the same thing as Trump. They're blue dog Democrats that just don't have an R by their name like he does. Like, everybody forgets that Trump was a fucking lifelong Democrat prior to 2016 election.
I'm sorry for laughing there. I've just Hamid Spud answered MC. He says the centre left consists of memes and Tim Pool.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Goku.
Howdy. I was thinking of who is the guy on the Democratic panel, and he was just like, threw a grenade. Oh, who's your worst enemy? And he's just like, those Viet Cong I killed during Nam, or something like that. Like, that was his answer, and he was a Democrat on stage.
Are you talking about Jim Webb?
Jim Webb. My fucking man, Jim Webb. Absolutely.
Dude, Jim Webb was awesome. I really wish that he actually got some traction last time, because he would have been a great center-left fucking gun-toting, smoking pot fucking Democrat. I could have possibly gotten behind him.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
I mean, I'm being quite serious. He was your standard Democrat in the fucking 90s, man. Like,
I'm telling you guys right now that those guys, when you think that they're one way, they're like Claire McCaskill, who constantly was saying how she's pro-gun and pro-Second Amendment. That in reality, as soon as that door closed, they look for ways to subvert all of this, and they've been that way for decades.
Yeah, but okay, first off, I want to address the Jeff Sessions thing. MC, you said you thought and believed that Jeff Sessions was working on the behalf of President Trump. I believe him being fired proves you wrong? What do you think?
I said that.
Well, I
Were you
stepped
not
away.
were you not sitting there paying attention when I said Mad Dog was right and I was wrong about this?
Oh my God!
Or are you so insecure that you got to hear
No.
it again? If that's
No,
the case, you were right and I was wrong.
First
off, I think I stepped away when you said that, and I feel fucking like shit now. Like I didn't get to hear that. Like I'm right. God damn it!
Of course, he's insecure. He's a Dodgers fan.
Man.
Yeah, I should have realized that. You're right, Batman. I should have taken that into account.
God damn it! But I got nothing. All right, go ahead.
Maestro, go ahead.
Oh, I was just. I kind of lost my train of thought there when everything devolved into sports again, and my brain checked out because I could give a fuck about sports. I played them all the way through college.
I'll drop a thought in here. With the red wave that swept the United States during the primary election that got Trump into office. Now with this the midterm results, hopefully it'll trigger the reawakening of common sense in the Democrat Party.
Oh, it's done right. All right, there's several things that have happened because of this. First of all, the fact that 45 Republicans were stepping away, that they weren't running as incumbents anymore, left a large vacant hole at the same time on a midterm election, which then greatly favored the Democrats. All right, and one of the reasons is what came from Paul Ryan. I don't want to be anywhere near there when the Democrats take control of Congress, right, or take control of the House. And he said that, and he said that back in January, right? So he was a lame duck from the very beginning. Now, if these guys were the ones, they came from the anti-Trump, all right, the never Trump wing of the Rhino Party within the Republicans. They're gone. That major part of the obstruction of Trump neutered itself and left. And what were they replaced by? Well, some of them were, replaced by Democrats, right? So that wasn't going to be a loss. The other ones were replaced by people that are hardcore Trump. Trump has basically, because of circumstances, gotten rid of the obstructionists that he had in the Senate, and he's gotten rid of the ones in the House now. He has actually improved from a party perspective, all right? His hold on the Republican Party and making it in his own image, it's a lot closer to that now, which means they're going to be far more unified than the Democrats are going into this next year, into this next legislative session.
Yeah, I mean, previously the Democrats have had a notorious reputation for being flippy-floppy in the House and Senate. Sometimes they'll side with the Democrats. A few Democrats will side with the Republicans, rather. But now there's infighting as well that they have to deal with. It's going to be a shit show for the Democrats. They're not going to be able to hold the House.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that crap when Ocasio-Cortez was decent about fucking McCain dying and she gets eviscerated by the Democratic Socialists? I mean, no.
It's amazing to sit there and watch the Democrats because, I mean, in a way, I'm kind of glad they won the House because if you're going to never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake, so to speak. So if they want to dig their own graves, you've got your hardcore Democratic socialist, you have the Justice Democrats, as Cenk would like to call them, and then you have your old school business Democrats, or at least what's left of them. There's going to be a lot of infighting amongst that, and I look forward to it.
Well, okay, all right. The thing about that, though, okay, since I already said that we've already started the 2020 run, which is disgusting in my opinion, but sure, politics are never ending in current zeitgeist. If Trump runs again, which he's almost guaranteed to do so, and he's facing Democratic fucking obstructionism in the House, so he couldn't really do anything for the last year and a half, so he got to brand the shit out of them for that year and a half. It will be an amazing sweep.
Oh,
and we're talking super majority sweeps.
I'm going to tell you what Trump's going to do.
Well,
Trump's going to push. I can tell you right now how he's going to handle the Democrats in the House.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what's going to happen in the next election and when this sweep that's going to happen then.
Right. Well, I want to, if you don't
Well,
mind, just let me explain what's going to lead up to this. What Trump's going to do is he's going to say, okay, I want to push this wall on immigration. The Democrats are going to sit up and no, we're not going to do the wall. We're going to obstruct. The next thing he's going to do is he's going to order the military to start building the wall anyway.
He's already done that.
The Democrat, no, I mean, full bore. All right, yeah,
the
a little bit.
Corps engineers is building the wall behind MADDS.
Yeah, but he's going to tell them to do it immediately. At which point the Democrats are going to say, okay, we're going to take you to court. It's going to prevent any oxygen from being taken from them to be utilized in anything but Trump. He's just going to steal it all.
I don't know if you're aware of this, MC, but the third migrant caravan is armed with weapons, and they killed several Mexican federales and military personnel when they crossed into Mexico. That triggered Trump to issue a shoot-on-sight order for any of the migrants that resist, and the infamous treat a rock like a gun thing that the Democrats lost their shit over, which allowed Trump to declare a state of emergency and is using FEMA money to support the Army Corps engineers building the wall behind our soldiers. And
Nice.
Thank God he actually activated a national army to do so. I'm glad this is out of the hands of the states and their relative state armies. Like this is a national issue, in my opinion. Or else why
he won't have to worry about he won't have to worry about them throwing rocks if they start throwing fucking fireworks like Antifa or even worse, Molotov cocktails at fucking U.S. officials.
Well, this is also Mattis's last hurrah. I mean, like, Mattis is retiring after this is done. He's already announced this. I mean, I would not be surprised if Mattis takes a very strong arm in this entire situation because he's already looking at full retirement with honors. So I don't see the controversy as it's being portrayed on the Clinton News Network.
Well, technically, he's already retired, isn't he? I don't think he's on active duty right now.
I should imagine if there's these migrants, if they do like attack any US officials, they're dead.
Yes, we very might be looking at the first time in at least a century when the American army fires upon another hostile force. And I'm sorry, I consider 3,000 armed people with guns and explosives to be a fucking army. It's hard for me to believe that legions of people are not, I mean, because the Roman definition of a legion is 1,000 people. And this is 1,000 men, you know, between the ages of 18 and 25, and multiples of them. I mean, the first one's 6 legions, second one is 4, and the third one that's armed with guns and explosives is 3. I mean, that's 11, that's 13 legions. That's more than the entirety of the Roman army had to bear at its height.
Well, you know what you'd be called if you didn't think that the bunch of armed people were a hostile force?
European?
Yeah.
I was going to say retarded, but no. You have a good point, and no, and they're throwing rocks. They have guns. They're fighting with the federales or whatever in Mexico. You don't think they're going to do that when they reach our border? Yeah, this is a crisis, and the president has every right to secure the border.
Well, even if they weren't armed with guns, you can expect that you can honestly expect after what they did in Mexico that they're literally going to physically try to get into the country.
From what we're seeing and what we're hearing, if they do get into the United States, you're going to start seeing cities in mainly California descend into chaos at the very least.
Also, wasn't there something like 100 kids that were reported kidnapped by human traffickers from the caravan? The first one?
Oh, I don't even want to get into the sheer volume of crap that is going on there, because there's reports of impress slavery, sex slavery, children gone missing, organs harvested. It's ugly. I mean, people are selling, you know, body parts.
It's entrepreneurial.
It's
either way, the whole thing's ridiculous.
It's Jensen stocking his larder up.
Oh.
Well, no, I'm looking in the chat. Someone's asking for the link. I put the link in the chat, and also 16 people watching, only 7 likes. Even if you hit the down vote, fucking give me a vote, motherfuckers. Anyway,
You already got one down vote.
well, there's always that one asshole. I think ogres have layers like onions. And I believe that down vote comes from somebody with layers. Anyway.
Oh, by the way, on a slightly separate tack, I think one of the interesting things that's going to come out of these elections is that they always keep going on about if women were in charge, everything would be fine, as we've seen in Sweden and in Germany and in Britain. You know, all you need is a bit of female leadership to make things good, right?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you got this swathe of feminists that are now in charge of so many different departments. It's going to be interesting to see what the results are. You know, it's how productive and how inclusive they are.
The interesting thing about that is you just need to do a little bit of research. I did it myself. There are 6 female-led cultures in the world that are still going, and they're all fucking backwards and primitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can include Sweden in that now.
Well, are you talking about the Monadan people in China that still live in grass huts because of feminism and how advanced the women folk are there?
Yeah, and also this African tribe.
Yeah,
that is still living in the Stone Age.
Well, amusingly, you brought that up. The 2018 job numbers are in, and here's what's fantastic. So there is over 750,000 men not seeking employment. They're doing nothing. They apparently checked out. Now, this is most notable between the 18 to 25 bracket. In that bracket, you're looking at 500,000 dudes that are either underemployed or not employed at all. Now, underemployed in America means that you're working 16 hours a week or less. So, I mean, it's practically not working. And if you look at the 25 to 35 year bracket, you have almost 350,000 men that just aren't working. They're not in the labor force at all. And I find it hilarious that with all of the empowerment women's crap that we get shoved down our throat all the goddamn fucking time, that we have this many dudes not working.
Well, that's welcome to the wonderful reality of diversity quotas.
Well, I'm being kind of a sarcastic dick about it, but Doku, you're absolutely right. I mean, right now, in for the next semester in college alone, you're looking at 82% female full-time at college enrollment. Period.
Well, all the women who you could look at in the world who actually are empowered.
Well, this is what I've always said about SJWs. They're not advocating for justice or equal treatment, regardless of what camp of SJW you happen to fall into. It's about entitlement. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's why it's going to be so funny when you see these people now trying to tackle the whole SJW thing, right? Because they've got to appeal to everyone, but there's not going to be enough money to go around. I mean, this thing's going to be, it's going to be an absolute clusterfuck. Yeah. You give these women these powers with these agendas. It's going to go very bad very soon.
Like I was trying to say, all these women who actually are what you would call empowered in the correct sense of the word, don't thank feminism for it. They did it on their own backs with their own sweat. They didn't have quotas or anything to help them.
Exactly. Well, I mean, wait to see what happens with that. Cardoza, whatever her name is in. Yeah, I mean, you wait and see what happens with that crazy.
Cortez.
Yeah, Cortez, that's the one. Yeah, let's see how quickly she manages to fuck things up. That should be quite an interesting ride. I've got my popcorn ready.
Oh my god! Like, did you even see her during the election? How did she fucking win? I mean,
I don't know. I'm surprised she even managed to. I'm surprised she even managed to make it to the fucking studios to do the interviews. To be honest with you, she's fucking brain dead.
And
we're seeing in the EU what happens when a strong woman meets a strong man. She backs down. Theresa May.
I'm just going to take this
well,
moment
to be
make
honest
a
with you,
classic
I'm
joke.
not even sure Theresa May is a woman, to be honest with you.
No, she is.
Real quick, I have a general question for the chat here. Who here besides me actually was a teenage? Well, I was a young teenager, but a teenager through the 90s. Am I the only one there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I was born in
Okay.
84.
All right. No, that's what I was asking. Because if you remember the first bit of political correctness that came in under the Clintons, what it took for the West, and more importantly, America, to pull out of political correctness then was 9/11, and two wars were still in. That, for whatever reason, I guess is not worth talking about anymore, but we're still there. I mean, for all of the leftist talking points about that, that just went away. It's kind of like the Kavanaugh fucking sex crimes issues. Like that conversation left the building. But that's what stopped it then. I don't think that 8 years of Trump just being Trump is going to end political correctness. It took war.
No, it won't. Of course it won't.
The worst civilian death, at least in modern memory. I mean, we can go back to some things from the UK and Canada that was visited upon the US to get equal body counts, but I mean, those are several hundred years back. So I mean,
mate, it's not going to be about the political. I mean, the political correctness thing is a sign of decadence, right? So I mean, things are going to change when people actually start saying we haven't got time for this shit. You know, when people are occupied, you need occupied people, and so when jobs come back, when people are actually busy and they're doing other things with their lives, they really don't want to be bothered with somebody else's fussy shit.
No.
You know,
but this is what I was bringing up earlier. The jobs are back. We're in a
that's what I mean.
Yes, but we're in a rebounding economy, and the effects of the SJW hatred on white men, because it's white men that aren't participating in the workforce. They're not participating in education. They are quite literally living minimalist, fucking goddamn MGTOW fucking lives. It's just, it's gross. But that's
but the thing is that, like I said, you know, when there are jobs and these guys can go out and actually start making a living, they can still live their MGTOW lives, but they can do it with more money, and they can enjoy their MGTOWness, you know, to their heart's content. But like I said, to break the political correctness thing, which is the issue that you brought up. No, I think that the only reason that we even have the fucking thing is because we're in a sort of hedonistic age where we have enough time to worry about this puerile shite.
Not just,
you know, when people are busy, they don't fucking have time to deal with it. It's shut up. I need to get on with something.
Not just, they're not going to just have more money. They're going to have a lot more self-respect.
Exactly.
If you're unemployed for a long time, you lose a lot of self-respect.
Well, real quick, 40 ounce. My thoughts are, it's kind of because we're in the internet age. What do you think? People have just more time to bitch on their phone, right, and just fucking complain about their current situation.
Well, perhaps if it weren't for the influence of a specific Hungarian billionaire, they would actually go out and get jobs.
But political correctness isn't about bitching. I mean, there is an element of bitching to it, but I mean, no, correctness thing is about trying to prevent people from talking and expressing themselves and getting in other people's lives and things like that. You know, I mean, the idea that you don't, you know, that people can communicate more, you know, more easily is not the same thing as political correctness. Political correctness came about because wanted to interfere with other people's lives. You know, I mean, that's what it's about, right?
But I think that's just one aspect of a larger symptom. I mean, it was like Maestro was saying, the reason people are acting the way they are is because you can't really get ahead in life. And it's funny because if you go on the internet and if you've been around the internet long enough, you'll notice that there are memes that are just like, kind of want to kill myself and stuff like that. And there are memes about, you know, the boomers fucking everything up and millennials are never going to, crippling depression memes and everything like that. And that's become a fad, really. And it's to no surprise, really. I mean, no one can buy houses anymore. It's hard to go to college and get a decent degree because, you know, it's flooded with useless people that are competing for the very same degrees you want to go get. So there is a bit of a societal lull, and that is one of the problems, that people are so depressed, I suppose you could say, just in a colloquial sense, not in the official sense. But and I think that something like political correctness gives people a sense of power in some way.
Actually, I'm glad you brought up.
Wait. I want to button 40 ounces point real quick, if you don't mind, Batman. Would that be all right?
No, it's not your stream.
Okay, yeah, no, it's not mine. It's not mine. Trust me, it's not mine. But to 40's point, what we're seeing out of that market of the people polled and surveyed for why they're not participating, the largest argument is, why should I bother to put myself, Cabbage Patch Shop, put myself into a place and work myself hard when all I have to do is be accused of something I didn't do and I lose everything. That mindset is not going to go away because you can get an extra $5 an hour.
Cabby's back.
Like, that's not going to go away until we deal with the Me Too political correct nonsense, which we've already found has caused a negative view on both victims of sexual assault and accusers of sexual assault. And those are two separate categories. But both of those categories have had a massive negative view across the entire Western world since Me Too started. And those numbers are in as well. So
also
it's not the matter that they need to lift themselves up and get a better job and feel better about their life and get a little more testosterone like a fucking incel needs to do in order to get a date. That's not it at all.
Yeah.
They just outright don't give a fuck because there's no way that they can get a better life.
One thing I was going to say, I mean, being long-term unemployed, I've seen this. You go to what we call job clubs over here, where you get a group of people, you under structured job search. There are almost never any women in there. It's curious because you'd expect, with unemployment being the way it is, there'd be just as many women as there are men, but there's hardly ever any women there.
Well, there's an interesting statistic I would like to give to you, Batman.
Hold on. That means women can either opt out of the employment market, or for some reason women are getting jobs far more easily than men are.
Well, no, there's also the fact that if you have children, you're not required to sign on.
Yeah,
your money goes direct, so you don't have to. So they're just pregnant women. The only time they have to go in is if they're, if there's some question or something they have to ask you. So that's the reason you only get guys in there.
That's one reason. I think the other reason is they can marry out of the jobs market as well.
Well, also there's a statistic. If somebody is so inclined to do a little bit more research on this, I would be very curious to see the demographic breakdown. But something like 30% of employed Americans cannot afford the average home.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, the deposit alone. I mean, you can rent one, but yeah, ownership has gone way outside of most people's grasp now. I mean, in Britain as well. I mean, long ago, actually. I mean, a good couple of decades. That's pretty much always been
the case in the UK. Most people north of the Watford Gap live in rented accommodation.
Well, another interesting statistic is something like 40% of renters claimed that they did not have regular access to affordable food.
That's starting to happen here, actually.
Well,
we have a rising people using food banks here in the UK.
Yep. Yeah, we have that. But I mean,
go ahead.
But you see, going back to, this idea about the political correctness and everything, right? I mean, we've already seen it where if you look at most political correctness within companies where they try to apply it, it's usually failed dismally. Most companies now do not want to employ somebody who turns up with purple hair and an attitude, right? So they're not getting jobs either. So when these jobs come back into the US,
well, the only reason I brought up those statistics is I'm curious about the root cause of the problem.
Well, to your statistics, Doku, it's closer to 35% of Americans can't afford it, and that's across a generational gap. So if you break it down by generation, so the millennial generation is sitting at about 90% cannot own a home. It's actually 92.5 plus minus 6%.
Oh shit.
Yeah, almost the entire generation can't buy a home. And then if you jump up to the mid-range where I'm at, where I'm not quite a millennial and I'm more of a Gen Xer, but I'm not one of those either. You know, we're sitting. That's the 30 to 40 bracket. We're sitting at the point, like in my case, I actually have to sell my homes because I'm on disability and I don't make enough to make enough to pay for my seizure medication without the disability insurance. So I actually have to divest from owning property and become a renter in order to keep disability. So that's closer to about 40%, and then if you go up to full Gen Xers, they're at about 15 to 20%. To give you a little bit more information on the housing thing.
The way that happens over here is it's not what you said. It's when people have parents who end up having to go into elderly care because of dementia or something. They basically get raped by the care homes, end up having to sell any property they've got to pay for the upkeep, and they'll end up, half of them end up having to sell their own homes or even remortgage them. It's like an attack on people who've worked hard and built a life for themselves.
Well, I mean, I feel very similar. I mean, I don't understand why. Okay, so I own 2 duplexes, right? I live in one of the duplexes, and I rent the other 3 to pay for the 2 duplex homes, right? I don't really make a lot of money, but I make more than $5 grand a year. Mm-hmm. But I have to sell that to keep my disability insurance. So, I mean, there's a lot of that metric too. Like, the only reason why I can afford to live in my own duplex is because I'm actually a homeowner and renter. I mean, it's a little frustrating because of the way that my taxes are done. But, I mean, the only way it's affordable is because I have 3 other units that I can rent out.
Yeah.
You see, so like in that particular area, I am required by my federal government to pay for the medication I have to have, or else I'm guaranteed a fucking seizure to divest from those properties. How does that in any way, shape, or form make me want to work harder to try to do anything? It's like, oh, you had this little patch and we're going to take it away. That's why I brought it. That's why I broke it down by age demographic. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at the millennials, right, in full, almost 100% of the generation cannot buy a house, period.
Well, yeah, no, real quick, that's what Tema's saying in the chat. Most West Coast Gen Xers can't buy a home on a single income. It's bad, to be honest. Cost of living is through the roof. Then again, Tema, Oregon has a fairly low cost of living compared to Washington or California. I think the only state that's close to us that has a lower one would be Nevada. And that's if you stay the fuck out of Vegas. How's it going, Zero Cole?
Oh, not bad. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. A lot of the times in regards to home ownership, and I love saying gas the boomers because you gotta read. Well, the pug raises his paw. But the truth is, we've had in America, we've had 2 housing We've had 2 housing collapses, and they've been bailed out both times. So is
4?
4, okay. So at least in my lifetime of 43 years, we've had 4 of them. Yeah. So what does that tell you? It's not that people. Well, one, every generation since the baby boomers has gotten poorer for a very good reason, which everybody knows the reasons to that anyway. So then when you initially have a generation that is being fucking brainwashed by the second generation before them, which is the boomers, millennials being basically fucked over, they have zero confidence to low to no confidence in actually wanting to purchase and own a house because they don't know what they're going to get out of it. I actually have a neighbor, and I can't believe he did this. And I just said, you've got to go back to the bank and fix this. He's trying to buy a house, and he's on a balloon loan plan. And I'm like, are you fucking high? And he said, well, that's all
banker.
Yeah, that's all the bankers would give him. And he has worked at his job for 7 years. He's never missed a day. He makes decent money, but what he should be paying, give or take $550 to $600 a month for home ownership, he's paying fucking $1,200. So he got a balloon loan because they fucking suckered him into it. And that's a very minimal bit of shit that millennials and some Gen Xers who, are buying houses late, because believe it or not, people do that. That's some of the minor shit that they're doing, because the housing market has collapsed in my 43 years on this planet at least 3 to 4 times. So what do you expect when you have people treating a business like it's their own, like raiding the coffers like they do? You get low to no confidence in the consumer. People don't want to buy. What do you expect?
Well, and this ties back into my argument about underemployment that I made earlier. I mean, what you mentioned about the balloon payment is a prime example. If you're a millennial male, right, and you're looking at the only way you could own a house is a 30 to 50 year payment that is at credit card rate to buy a home, why would you work your ass off to do that?
Yeah.
Hey, that is stupid. If you're going to be renting your entire life, you might as well
live in an apartment
with like 5 or 6 other dudes, so that way you can play Xbox and work 16 to 30 hours a week at the local 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Well, my neighbor that actually is going through this balloon loan payment bullshit, his grandparents did this to him, and I'm like, what? I'm like, are your fucking grandparents high? And he goes, well, they didn't have any. I didn't have any credit, and I said, bullshit. There are housing courses and programs that a lot of cities offer that get you basically set up, ready to go to have home ownership, so that when you walk into a bank, even if at worst you end up with a balloon loan payment still, you're still armed to the teeth, knowing what you have for an arsenal, so that when you go buy a house or get the loan for the house, you can say, well, this is what I make, this is how long I've been at my job, and this is what my credit score is, blah, 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 blah. They can't do shit but try to offer you the best possible. And he basically got fucked over by his grandparents. That's another reason I hate baby boomers. And I don't hate all baby boomers, because let's be honest, that's unrealistic, much like any other generation. But Gen X is not exactly completely guilt-free. We are unfortunately starting to show the same habits. It's kind of like, are you fucking high? You can't be doing this shit. Did you learn nothing from your parents fucking stuff over for your kids, and so on and so forth?
Okay, here's some interesting numbers you guys might find noteworthy. Cost of living in the United States, 1975 versus 2015.
Real quick, is this adjusted for inflation?
Indeed it is.
Excellent. Then please continue.
So a new house, 1975, the average, $48,000. 1975 adjusted for 2015 dollar value, $209,000. Actual cost in 2015, $270,000.
Yep.
Median income, 1975, $12,686. Adjusted for 2015, $55,000. Actual median income in 2015, $51,000. Minimum wage, 1975, $2.10 an hour. Adjusted for 2015, $9.16 an hour. Actual cost in 2015, $8.25 an hour. Public college, $1,819 in 1975. Adjusted for 2015, that's $7,938. Cost in 2015, $18,943.
And who do you have to thank for that?
Well, seems like throwing money at a problem by using government programs doesn't actually fix the underlying problem now, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's much like when you have kids that run roughshod over everybody these days, because let's face it, Gen Xers, when they were having the millennials, the first thing their parents did, oh, we're going to spoil them and send them home with you, and you have to deal with the fucking problem. Oh, sure, that's funny as hell when you're an aunt or an uncle, but that's different when the grandparent overrides your judgment, because government agencies and liberal policies stick their fucking nose, yes, I'm talking to you, DHS, where it doesn't fucking belong. Because instead of solving the problem, which is parents, which kudos to people who actually take parenting class and realize that they might suck at being parents. Well, you should have never got there in the first place, because parents of, your parents, while you're raising your kid, need to stay the fuck out of it and back you up. Because if their parents did that to them, they'd be like, no, I know how to raise my kids. And they would automatically put up a defensive wall saying, you can't tell me how to raise my kids. And guess what their parents did? They backed the fuck off.
And this is something funny to point out real quick.
Well,
this is something Sorry, I'm just going to point this out real quick.
Sure.
Adjusted 1975 cost versus actual cost. Gasoline went down. Sugar went down. Coffee went up. Bread went up.
That doesn't surprise me about coffee. You've got to think that we've actually had more mass coffee consumption over the past 43 years, and I'm counting for 2018, 43 years than we ever have in modern history.
Yeah, well, that'll teach you to dump tea in Boston Harbor, won't it, you bastard?
Hey, I happen to like my tea. Thank you very much.
No, real quick about that. I am just old enough as the fucking fence-sitting millennial that I'm stuck at because of 1980 that I remember being able to do whatever the fuck I wanted as a kid, and I had to be home at sunset. Now, if you're a free-range parent, you lose your child and go to prison.
Yeah. And you can blame the alphabet agencies for that because they don't know how to discern what an actual, discern case per case what the actual problem is. They allow people to become helicopter parents, and again, having the grandparents baby the shit out of their parents and override the parental judgment of said parents.
Well, that's why. Real quick. I've been quiet for a while. No. That's why here in Oregon, grandparents have absolutely zero rights. And then again, I've had DHS called on me. I don't know how many times. They come in, they look around, they talk to me for a bit, and they leave and leave me alone.
That wasn't because of that dipshit neighbor you had, right?
Yeah.
That guy.
Zero. My childhood.
So real quick. I'm trying to finish. I'm trying to finish my sentence here. No, but the thing is, while they're fucking with me, there's somebody actually abusing their child that they're not even looking at
exactly.
At all.
Yes,
no, exactly. That's the problem. They do not know how to go by a case-by-case basis like they're supposed to. DHS has never been a good idea.
Right.
Sure, there are people that abuse the shit out of their kids, and unfortunately, people slip through the cracks, and we do have problems. But when you have a government agency in America, DHS being the specific one, basically going into full panic mode because they don't want to, they're too fucking lazy to, or they say, and let's be honest, they are overworked on a certain level, but that's because the states have the authority to hire and fire people over in these specific positions. When you are basically railroaded, that's basically what they say, well, we have to hit the panic button, everybody's guilty. Batman, all yours. Well,
what I was going to say is, Zero, my childhood sounds a lot like yours seem to. Yeah, as long as my homework was done, I could do whatever I wanted until like bedtime, pretty much.
Yeah,
holidays, I used to disappear for sometimes over.
Yeah, the most we ever got was most we ever got yelled at in my family was stop opening and closing the damn door.
Yeah.
And that was it. And they'd be like, "Oh, well, it's Saturday. You watch cartoons till about 8 or 9 in the morning, and then you go out and play till 10 at night." Well, everybody talked to everybody. Everybody's parents knew everybody's parents. That was good because if you knew you were being a brat, the parents would be like, "No, you're going home. You're being a little brat." And I've already called your parents. You're like, you're a traitor. And they go, "We don't give a shit. Go home. You're grounded." And that was it. But the problem is everybody's become so isolated and reliant upon computers and social media. Then you wonder why we got a problem.
I think that, I was going to say, I think that the helicopter parent thing is part of the rise of the SJW because those kids who were brought up like that are now the young adults we have now who haven't grown up emotionally. They're still children.
Yeah, and guys like MADDS who are actually trying to raise his children properly are technically getting the middle finger because people don't know how to mind their own fucking business on a certain level. They're not getting in groups and they're not doing what we used to do in my neighborhood. Like if a kid would go missing, we would have the blue star, and I think MADDS, you might know what that is. The blue star in the window as a safe haven for kids that might be in danger because some freaks roam around the neighborhood, but now it's everybody's got their fucking nose in social media and everybody's not minding everybody else's business in the wrong way. They don't get parental groups that basically are a neighborhood watch type situation. People don't go to family, families don't all work at the same businesses all the time. and they don't go to the company picnics and get to know each other. There were a lot of people in my neighborhood, the parents didn't get along, but when it came to kids, I don't like you, you don't like me, but our kids are our kids, and we have to lead by example. But nope, whatever.
Well,
yeah, it's like the last neighborhood I lived in, what the neighborhood I'd grown up in, really. We knew each other so well that if I saw, when it was snow on the ground, I saw one of the neighborhood kids walking by, nobody would think twice about me making a snowball and smacking it off the back of the kid's head, and I knew I would just get a snowball back in return. And every Halloween, I used to scare the local kids. The parents thought it was hilarious.
Now everybody's so fucking butthurt.
Well,
and I honestly wish I wish Mad Dodge lived in my town, because if he knew me, he knows me on a certain level, but if he was my neighbor and I knew his kids and was like, yeah, no, he's fine and all, and somebody gave his kid shit, I know for a fact he would let me march right in front of that kid and say, you know what, I'm going to swat you on your ass and take you home. And if somebody gave that kid shit, I'd be like, no, you're not coming near this kid because I don't know who the fuck you are. Get out of here. But parents don't do that these days, and the ones that do are of a certain economic level.
Well, here I want to get a word in edgewise, Zero.
You can't.
Yeah, I know. But there's two cultural things that happened in the West that led to this. Number one was the ridiculous concept of stranger danger, which I distinctly remember coming out of the Satanic Panic of the 80s. So that's point one. Point two, in tied with that, was we had an entire generation raised on stranger danger that turned out to be factually inaccurate. So the response to that on a government level was, instead of changing the messaging and saying, oh, we fucked up, our propaganda was wrong, this is actually the case, they took a zero tolerance policy to a great many things, and it turned out horribly. That's point one. Point two, nobody wants to be responsible or held legally actionable for smacking a kid at all. Remember when teachers would give you a hard-ass time, and if you were that much of a shit, you get your ass spanked? I did.
Yeah. Oh, you get with bouncing off your head.
In my middle school, the teacher, Miss Opaka, I think her name was, she had a fucking bullwhip on the wall. And the joke was, you fuck around, she'll pull the bullwhip down. I actually saw her pull it down once and snap it right by a kid and make him pretty much piss himself.
Now that view across all adults to all children is intense psychological abuse or physical assault. And that has led to the point where it is much easier for me to call in a third-party legal arbitrator, so that way I'm not being racist or a dick, so that way I'm not going to be held responsible because the big government man will take care of it for me. And I don't think that's a good idea, personally.
Well, that's a result of a trend, 2, if not 3 or 4 generations ongoing, of slowly absolving people from actually having personal accountability and pushing it off onto somebody else, usually a third party from a societal standpoint. And now you end up with those kids who essentially don't understand the idea of accountability or consequences for their own actions because they've been absolved of it. And so now they're of voting age. I mean, shit, most of them are my age at this point in time, and they are still quite literally children.
Yeah, no, either that or they're the ones inflating the prison population because they have no self-control and they fucking end up in trouble. 40 ounce, you've been quiet for a long ass time. The situation in California can't be much better, right? 40 ounce, you still alive?
40.
Yeah, I came back just as soon as you asked that question. But yes, I am alive still.
Check.
What are we talking about?
Check your pulse.
How kids need to be smacked around and parents are getting punished for the stupidity of a overreaching government agency, DHS.
Yeah, in other words, California, it can't be much better there, right? Like, goddamn.
No, it's really fucking awful there. There have been a few stories about about parents who have had the DHS called on them due to the fact that they let their child go to the park across the street alone. And it's just like, that's something I did every single day as a kid. My parents would literally physically push me out of the house and say, if you come back before dinner time, I will physically hit you.
Oh, my parents knew if I was ill because I wouldn't go out.
Over here in the UK, there was a kid taken away from parents because the parents refused to give him ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been cases over the years of kids holding their parents to ransom. Turning around and saying, if I don't get this or you don't do that, I'm going to be straight on the phone to social services.
Yeah.
What? Oh my God! I would hit my child so fucking hard if they ever said that.
You know, I'm going to interject here because I'm also going to get out of here and I'm going to say my final piece about the political stuff too. The funny thing is, I'm of the generation, and Batman is too. I don't know if Batman necessarily had to deal with this himself, but
I'm of the.
Huh?
I was born in 64.
Yeah. Okay, so you're about 10 years older than me, easily.
Yeah, I'm the last of the baby boomers.
Right. Well, that's the good news. The thing is, Nintendo really. We accept you as Gen X.
Right,
but in all seriousness, Nintendo and the resurgence of video games hit in about 86, 87. And my parents, being of the silent generation, when my dad went out and bought a Nintendo for the Christmas of 1987, he said they started drastically changing how they disciplined me, and I'm glad they did because I did it with my daughter, and it worked so much more effectively. Is they would basically say, "Hey, look," he would held up the receipt and says, "Yes, this is your Christmas present, but as long as I have the receipt and you haven't paid me back for it, it is mine. If you misbehave, it goes in the closet." I've seen a lot of parents do this with their electronic devices, and this is infinitely more successful than smacking a kid on the ass, because physical pain can be temporary, but mental pain lasts a lifetime. So while you're not specifically torturing your kids, you're basically telling them, I am still smarter than you. Don't overestimate your skills and don't ever think I'm an idiot. And I did this with my daughter a lot because she did grow up playing video games. And by the time that iPods and all that shit came out, she was already a teenager with a job. And she said, well, I went out and bought an iPod. It's like, hey, cool, you earned it. Good job. And she got that from knowing that when she bought stuff for herself, we had no authority or control to take it away from her. And that's fine because she was acting like an adult. But when she was misbehaving, and when her and her sister were misbehaving, playing the Super NES and the Genesis and PlayStation, all this stuff, we'd be like, we would leave everything set up and plugged in, but we would take the console away, lock it in the closet, and that's it. And they said, and they weren't able to go upstairs and get on a computer. So that is, people say, well, that's torture. No, that's actually better responsibility than smacking a kid on an ass these days.
Disheartening before you go?
Real quick.
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick. Zero, dude. It's really interesting. My neighbor, I'm not going to mention any names or anything, of course. But
no, the jackass that about the toys and shit, right?
No, a different neighbor. Her and her daughter have to go to counseling, right? Ordered by DHS, and she had taken her daughter's cell phone away. Mind you, this girl is like 10 years old. She took her cell phone away because she messed up, and the counselor told her to give it back. It was upsetting her emotionally. Are you fucking
you can get? I would have basically just taken the battery out and said, yeah, here's your cell phone back, but you don't get the battery. And that counselor's out of bounds, by the way. That's the biggest problem is that the counselor needs to go find a real fucking job.
Hold on, I got news for you, sir. That is actually labeled as intentional emotional abuse. Let me finish. Intentional emotional abuse and long-term distraught something or other. I don't remember the exact language. By the state of misery, my neighbor. And you can lose your child for taking away her cell phone.
That's disgusting.
Well, boo fucking who. You ought to see what happens every time a local neighborhood gig gets smart with me and I chuck their fucking cell phone down the street.
Not just saying, man. Where I live.
No, I completely understand.
You can lose your kid for taking away the electronic.
I completely understand that. That's why I said I'm glad I had my kid in the mid-'90s and she was an adult by the time that the iPod was getting popular and everybody was starting to have PCs. I didn't have to deal with this shit. And
well, I mean, the funny part is like I worked in my family's business because my parents are immigrants. So I worked in the family business. And I bought my first Nintendo, the NES, myself in second grade.
That money that you made.
Huh?
From all the drug money that you made?
No, actually, it was quite literally. I bought my NES with it. And that was one of the things I never understood the rest of my class because they were bitching about the fact that their parents didn't buy them the Nintendo, and I already had one because I bought it myself.
Well, your parents were smart. They let you earn your stuff.
Do you know
let me get my political piece out here, Mad Dodge, so I can let everybody go back to what they're talking about. I was surprised to see what I saw about a lot of things. I kind of knew they were going to lose the House, but what people need to really watch for is there are now 4 women in the House of Representatives, and one of them is a Muslim from Wisconsin, and she needs to be watched out. She needs to be kept an eye on.
There are 2 of them that are Muslim, actually.
Yeah, and they both need to be kept an eye on. Thankfully, in the state of Iowa, the status quo has been stayed the same. We are still a red state. Unfortunately, Dave Loebsack is still in office, and I hope the Grim Reaper takes him relatively quickly because he is a threat to our state security. So I'm going to get out of here and hop back in the chat. I'll see you guys there.
Yeah, but one of the punishments my dad played on me, because 14 years old, we were playing cricket in one of the fields by the house, and I sent the cricket ball through a neighbour's window. Complete accident. And my dad, told us what I'd done was wrong, and very nice about it, which worried me. So you're not going to punish us? You're not going to, give us a good hiding or anything? Oh no, I'm waiting till Christmas.
Yeah, that is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean the part of the reason why I brought up the thing with what's going on with particularly in Missouri about it's child abuse if you take away their electronics and devices is it is being treated like it is a God-given right that you have to give your kid a fucking smartphone. Like, that is the view, and this is from the heartland of America, guys. We are about 10 years behind everyone else in culture.
So a lot of low-income working-class families have got to beggar themselves because they have to give their kid a smartphone.
But if you take it away because you try to discipline them, I am not surprised at all that social workers are telling you that you can't do that, because I know in a legal point of grounds, you can be charged for emotionally torturing your child if you take away their
How do they expect these children to become adults?
I don't think they do, because the term that's being thrown around now is not that they're helicopter parents, they're bulldozer parents. They just mow everything down in front of their kid. So that way there is none of that go eat dirt and build up a fucking immune system anymore at all. And I do not see anything good coming out of that at all. Period. I don't see full stop. I do not see anything good about raising people apathetically to think that you get handed everything. And I think that's part of the big push for college in general, because a lot of people do not need to go to college. If you want to work a trade, go to a trade school. I mean, you don't have to take a fucking 4-year degree program to learn how to fucking retread tires, for fuck's sake, as they said in Forrest Gump. I mean, I think the big reason to continue adolescence through college is quite literally to get you completely through that rebellious 18-year-old phase and extend out the amount of learned helplessness you have. Because in college, at least the way colleges are run now here in the States, you are quite literally beholden to the administration. They, tell you when you can drink practically. It's disgusting.
Yes, but that's the problem, right? Because this is what universities used to be for, was to transition young people into adults. Give them that degree of freedom where they can start, they have to spread their wings. They've got to start taking account for themselves. At university, you don't.
They were also
colleges. But,
they were also there to make people think.
Obviously critical thinking, but I mean, as part of a life, as part of a growing experience, it's meant to be, the idea that you give these people the life skills to go on and use their education in the future. No point coddling them, and then when they get into the workforce, they're no fucking use to anyone. Nobody wants them because they're all a bunch of spoiled brats.
But now all the universities are is indoctrination factories.
Well, and the messed up part about it, so Boston College had an artist that I think this was done as an artistic fucking I think, because of their particular Twitter responses, but they made a cry closet for their college as an artistic work of art.
Oh, Jesus.
The majority of the college wanted to use it and to know where it was in their dorm because they were the cry college for finals.
You know, most universities, especially in America, you know what phrase most university students learn for their employment. You want Friday night?
Office?
There's a joke coming.
I have no idea, Batman. What?
You want fries with that?
Oh. Well, see, the sick part about that, right? Out here, like, you could work at McDonald's or you could work at a grocery store if you were the age of 14. The average grocery store sacker and or McDonald's fast food worker employee now, average age is 28.
Oh, yeah. No, I told you this. I've told you this story before, Matt, haven't I? About, you know, I mean, I went for a burger and I ended up having a fucking philosophical debate with the guy while I was waiting. You know, you should not be able to discuss Nietzsche while you're waiting for a burger to be prepared.
No, you shouldn't.
You know what I mean? There's something very wrong about that.
Most of the people I went to school with who went to university, they went on to get decent, you know, really good, well-paying jobs. Nowadays, the things that they go to study in university, they're not going to land them with jobs sweeping the roads.
Yeah. Well, you know what's sad is that Nietzsche is actually rather hard to comprehend. So it's pretty sad that it was him specifically that you were talking about. Like,
well, it was. He said it's going to be a little while, and I said, "Don't worry, time is." I don't know. It was a quote from Nietzsche. It's, you know, like the futility of time. So that's how we got onto that. So.
Different quality of burger salesmen in your part of the country than the ones I've dealt with have been thick as pig shit.
Well, I mean,
well, you see university cities, you know, like Leeds or Manchester. I mean, that was in Leeds, but you get the same thing in Manchester too.
I'm in between two university cities. I mean, we've got Newcastle and we've got Durham.
Exactly, you live in between them. You don't live in them.
Yeah, but
they don't commute. Intellects don't commute.
College. When I go for burgers, I go to Newcastle.
Oh no, White Castle. Mini burgers.
Yeah.
Newcastle is a city. Never mind.
Oh, that's good too.
He's an American. He doesn't know these things.
I know. Can't expect too much, can you?
Is that something we bombed? If not, we don't care.
Well, hey, I mean, I've never been to Australia, but I hear it's a nice place to visit. But regardless of that, I heard something about what you can't take away your own child's cell phone as a form of discipline.
Not in the state of Missouri. It is viewed as emotional torture and intentional duress of a child. And you can lose your children for that. DHS can take it away in the state of Missouri.
Well, there's a simple solution. Just never give them a phone in the first place.
Take
it away from them.
Tell them the rest.
No, there's no mandate for you to buy one if you don't have one. But if you give one, you can't take it away. This goes for all electronics: your tablet, your laptop, your.
Don't give them any shit. Don't give them any shit. Just give them a stick with a hoop.
Xbox counts under this ruling from DHS as well, and that was held up by the 5th district, which is my district. The court actually substantiated that. So if it goes to a higher challenge, it's going to the federal Supreme Court.
It's really cool, you know. I mean,
it feels like that. The child abuse, not taking away your child's phone when they're being an abusive little shit.
That's like a violation of like every sort of like developmental like actual like thing without no do people know that actually exists? Like the majority of folks down there actually know that that's on the book?
So you know what about if it was
wall-to-wall local news in Kansas City because a local Jackson County parent and homeowner, you know, married family with children, God forbid, that's rare in Missouri. I mean, I call it misery for a goddamn reason. But yeah, no, they lost their 3 children because the the 11-year-old oldest child, I don't remember if it was a boy or girl. I just remember because they're minors. So it's minor A, minor B, minor C is what they're allowed to report on. The oldest child had her cell phone taken away for a week, and this caused distress to the child to the point where the school reacted through the school counselor, and they contacted DHS, and DHS moved in and took the children out of the home immediately on an emergency stay order.
Real quick, did they immediately issue them Obama phones?
No idea, because the parents were required to maintain the phone lines throughout the entire court action. The children weren't even living home.
I mean, what would happen if you take away the Lego next, right? You can't take away the Lego, no stickle bricks.
You've got those beyond all recognition. I'm just pointing out that it's real and it's an actual thing.
Well, like I said, it's going to make parents' lives
I'm a libertarian dyed in the wool. I think it's ugly.
That state's got.
Well, there's going to be a lot more puzzles and things like that.
How long is it before the made law that you have to buy your child a mobile phone?
Well, you cannot. Also, Missouri has determined through their DHS that you cannot buy one child a phone and not all of your children a phone.
Oh,
so,
Jesus!
They're forcing people to buy things.
No, they are not. They are saying that it is abusive to buy one child a phone and not give the other children a phone. So if you give,
what about teaching them how to share? What about teaching them how to share? Isn't that a point? I mean, isn't that one of the most important things that a child has to learn is how to share?
Cabbage, they're mind-licking logs.
That's all I'm doing. So if you get your 16-year-old a phone for their 16th birthday, but the 13-year-old doesn't have a phone, the 13-year-old can go to the school counselor or the school cop, report the parents for not getting them a phone, and that is technically illegal in Missouri.
Well, yeah, but like I said, my answer, this is going to make life cheaper for every parent, because no parent is ever going to buy anything again because, the fear of having to take it away and getting charged. So you won't get any Legos and stuff. I mean, I don't know, maybe...
all I know is that it was
puzzles or a spike in sales. There'll be jigsaws.
The local stations here went wall to wall with this because it broke the election crap that was happening back in 2015. It broke that because it was that big of a deal. Kansas hates DHS to begin with. Most Kansans want to shoot a DHS member for just existing.
It's not too far from the truth here either.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
I can test that one.
Well, considering the fact that where I live, it is only 20 miles to the state of Missouri, and part of the way that the Missouri DHS is horrifically pernicious. So, if I took my children as children, because my children are all adults now. But if I took both of them, I made it sound like I had a fucking baker's dozen of children. But if I took my kids over to Missouri,
we leave that to them.
And for some reason, they pitched a bitch because I took away their goddamn, Nintendo DS or something. The way the Missouri DHS is constituted under the state constitution, they can step in and supersede Kansas DHS and take my kids on the spot. That's part of why it was wall-to-wall news here.
So
wrecked Kansas City, Missouri's business because Kansans aren't crossing into Missouri because of this. They have kids; they're not going.
When I Google Missouri kids cell phone, the third link that comes up is Missouri. Show me state shows cell phones for free to the poor. Freegovernmentcellphones.net.
One of the things I don't understand
this.
Sorry to chime in, but one of the things I don't understand is people that are actually harming their kids and beating them and everything else, they won't do crap to them. But the ones that are actually taking care of their kids and making sure they eat, making sure they go to bed on time, making sure their face is not buried into electronic, 24/7, they want to basically pick on us and take our kids away from us.
Part of that comes from if they did come down on these parents who are abusing their kids, like physically beating them and stuff like that, it would get in the papers and it would make them look bad, and they don't want to look bad.
No, come on.
Here
How much
in
worse
Texas,
is it? How much worse does it look that somebody gets in the newspaper because they
didn't
took
say
a kid's phone away? I mean,
I
it
didn't
just
say they
looks
were
pathetic.
Well,
Cabbage,
here
I
in
didn't say they were
Texas,
intelligent.
like they believe if you spank your kid, that's abuse. We are not even allowed to spank our own kid, according to the state.
Let me chime in here with my experience with social services in the UK. Put it this way: a mother over here can neglect her child, put her at risk of serious injury by leaving her someone who had a fucking brainstem stroke, and they will do jack shit. They will do literally fuck all.
Yeah,
but they will happily go to bother parents who are trying to do the best.
Yeah, it didn't used to be like that. I mean, one of the things that disgusts me is parents can be fined and sometimes even jailed if their child's missed school. I mean, when I was a kid, you got people who they were working during the summer holidays, so they couldn't take the kids on summer holidays. So, when they had the time off after the summer holidays, they'd take the kids out of school for a fortnight. Now, if you try and do that, hefty fines. It's destroying family dynamics.
Yeah, it's true, because I remember that when I was a kid, I got taken out of school to go on a holiday because that was the only time we could do it. You know, we had my dad had a 2-week window, and that was the time we had to take.
Yeah.
But the thing was, when I went on holiday, one of the things my parents did was they asked the teachers for all of the homework and things like that I should be doing. And when I was on holiday, sitting on the beach, I was reading the textbooks and stuff, and I still had to, to do the shit. I still had to do my bloody homework.
What a garbage.
Yeah, that's just how it was.
The ones I knew who went out of school after some holidays were over, they did the same. They still had to do the
you always got that. Yeah. Not anymore.
Well, real quick memes. If you search Missouri cell phone removal of kids, it gives you the Missouri kids count behind the scenes page is the first return, and it's to return in neglect and all that shit. And in that, it does go into it in one of the bullets. It's down at the bottom of the page. It goes into various aspects of neglect and abuse for calling in.
Well, no, Cabby, you know what the sad part is? My kids, half the time, don't even have homework at all. Other than like a reading log, dude. Like they don't even send home anymore. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You can tell the state of education these days just by reading what people post, how people post on the internet rather than what. Well, the level of literacy and grammar that you see is atrocious.
Mate, I had a guy who wrote me a report one time, and apparently he was an A star in English literature or English language, one or the other. That was on his CV, and he wrote a report like it was a text message. I mean, like as in you are. You know what I mean? I mean, it was pathetic. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Well, if you properly contracted it, I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you just put YOURE without the apostrophe for contraction, that's fucking abysmal.
Oh, give me a fucking break, you grammar Nazi.
One of the biggest problems.
I'm sorry, it's one thing. This thing is not coming up for me, man. It's not the first result. I went down to the bottom of the page. It's almost like we're getting different results.
I'm searching through Chrome, man.
I'm on Safari.
Yeah, the browser doesn't make any difference if you're on Google or try DuckDuck.
Well,
Lil, what were you saying, Lil?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. Back to the education thing. I went to my 9-year-old's open house, and I found out that they are actually in front of a computer more in the day than they are actually doing book work, and that irritates me. That they're sitting in front of a computer majority of the day instead of learning the old-fashioned way.
But I do remember that teachers did use, as you got towards the end of the year, you know, the end of the school year, basically, or the end of terms, we did tend to watch a lot more videos, even when I was a kid. Once videos were created, we'd all, you know.
To me, that's a little different. You know, you're at the end of the school year. You've already pretty much learned pretty much everything that you're going to learn within that school year. But yes, I do remember that too. But like the last month, it was pretty much like literally like a fuck off month. You didn't really do anything that last month.
Exactly.
But
like
mid-school year, you're putting my child in front of a computer. I mean, why are we paying you if you're not actually teaching my child? You're putting her in front of a computer. Is how I
agree with you. Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, you may as well home study. Use internet. Use internet.
But yeah,
well, I mean, use internet tutors. If it was feasible, it doesn't really make any sense just transporting a body from A to B if they're not even getting anything which is really constructive.
They're not being educated these days, Cabbage. What they're being done is.
If I taught my kids, they would hate me. They would full on hate me because they would be reading out of a book.
Really, in the US and in the UK,
they respect you later.
They're not being educated at all. Really, what they're being done, what's happening to them is they're getting trained to pass exams, which is completely different.
Exactly. Which is why when I was doing examinations, there was no such thing as multiple choice. You didn't have a guess option. You know what I mean? You had to actually explain everything, and you had to show you were working out and that kind of stuff. So but you don't have that anymore. It's basically
that's one of the big differences.
Parrot fashion bullshit.
Cabbage between the way we were educated and where they're educated now. One of the big things for our education was we had to understand the subject and show that we understood it, not just repeat parrot fashion.
Exactly. You had to do essays.
Yeah. As one of my teachers said, the biggest part of education is not teaching you facts and figures, but teaching you how to learn.
Yeah, critical thinking. One thing which seems to be missing.
If you're talking about educational, the education system as it stands currently, at least as the United States is concerned, it's based off the Prussian educational model, which puts emphasis on vocational skills, but the vocational skills from the time, which again, mid-1800s, Industrial Revolution, was a respect for authority, adherence to a schedule. It wasn't necessarily critical thinking that was required. Humboldtian educational philosophy was applied to higher educations and higher standards of learning, which did not necessarily focus on vocational skills, but more an appreciation for the arts, critical thinking, things like that. But the two have become muddled, and now it's mostly just about indoctrination or learning how to think a certain way, because the factory workers of today sit behind a computer. It's sticking straight to Prussian educational theory.
Yeah, but I thought the American education system was based around, was it Dewey? The Dewey system? The guy who created the Dewey Decimal and all that? I thought it was a Dewey educational system because that was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. Some conspiracy
the English education system was more along the Prussian model, but even then, training kids, working class kids to do jobs when they left school, you were still teaching them a bit critical thinking to understand the world around them. Because even with that level, it was understood that education has to be more than just training future workers. You've got to produce well-rounded members of society.
Well, and that's more the Humboldtian model, not necessarily the Prussian model. Essentially, the two theories state this. If I'm going to condense it without going into a long-winded rant, the Prussian model is an adherence to a schedule and to respect authority. Because if you're working in a factory and you don't do as you're told, it potentially leads to your death. And if one soldier or factory worker, but they treat them as soldiers essentially, it doesn't show up, it could break the entire system, especially when you're talking about an ABCD, line worker factory style system versus Humboldtian is more about that critical thinking skills, being able to think for yourself, being able to look at a problem that doesn't have a clear solution. And those are your managers.
Right, so you mean
those are your owners. So those are the
it's sort of
two
the difference.
theories.
It's the difference between sort of the Enlightenment concept and utilitarianism.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is why vocational skills are heavily pushed from the Prussian model, because you're being trained to be a factory worker essentially, versus the Humboldtian model is training you to be a manager, because if a problem comes up that requires more than just a simple vocational skill, you need to have some sort of critical thinking ability to try to figure out a solution for it, especially if a solution is not readily available.
Yeah. That's another thing that that I know from my school, and I suspect from the American education system of my generation. It encouraged adaptability and versatility as well.
And that's kind of what's lost on the education system now, is it's all standardized, which is very much a Prussian educational system. That's also why you see people, screeching, because they can't actually think for themselves. They just parrot what they've been told and what the status quo is. And obviously you don't want to be socially ostracized, so you're not necessarily going to go against the status quo unless you're an asshole like I am and many of you are. But that's essentially the problem with the education system we currently have. It is not, they say standardization, I say call it what it is. It's indoctrination.
Yes, it is.
Ideological.
Yep.
No, it's certainly, there's no doubt it's changed. It's changed from being about giving people the desire to learn. That's the one thing that I've always enjoyed, is learning.
Oh, I'm the same way. I'm that nerd that will sit there and listen to a documentary about space for 2 hours.
Learning is its own reward.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
no,
exactly. And
real quick, I want to address the indoctrination part. If you look at it, the government-funded school system is indoctrination. But if you go the private route, you have a little bit more leadway, and also the charter schools are kind of memes. They're sitting on the fence. I mean,
Wait, what?
Yeah, another difference. I think Cabbage will agree with me. Back when I was at school, the teachers would not talk about politics.
No, in fact, it was against policy. You weren't allowed to back then.
No.
Well, we had political science where that's all you talked about was politics.
No, no. You could talk about politics, but not the individual, personal, machinations of the teacher. I mean, you could teach it as a concept, but you don't go fucking forcing your philosophy.
Yeah, it was an officially maintained neutrality, I would say. But
yeah,
saying that, back when I was at school, competition was very much encouraged. I mean, we had what they called houses when I went to school, and
me too. Yeah,
4 or 5 houses in a school, and the pupils all belonged to different houses, which they competed all the time.
Yeah. Exactly, athletics, football, rugby, whatever it was. Yeah, you'd have competitions between the houses. Yeah,
but generally, all your friends belong to the same house as you.
Well, yeah, it was your clique.
Yeah, well, that kind of thing is important for humans. Competition is necessary, and it's something which is being drummed out of the kids nowadays.
I had many cliques.
Yeah,
because everyone has to get a participation trophy. Can't cheer for people either.
Just about to bring that up.
Yeah, can't. Yeah, you're not allowed to clap.
They
say that at every presidential debate. Don't cheer anybody, but people still do.
That's
natural reaction.
We do. This jazz hands thing. We want to start banning that because it triggers people who have.
That's it.
No. What if they identify as a raccoon? Then wouldn't that be racial appropriation?
What happens if somebody has an epileptic fit? They get fucking arrested for traumatizing somebody else.
I understand the clapping thing. Occasionally, you'll see there'll be a kid down there or something. They'll have like the big headpiece on or something because it can throw things off. But it's that's just more of a politeness thing. If you're gonna change absolutely everything around, wouldn't it be easier just to get better equipment to help accommodate reasonable accommodation?
In a sensible, healthy society, the minority adjusts to conform to the majority, not the other fucking way around.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't the clapping thing? They wanted to replace it with like jazz hands or something because
we've just
loud
covered that.
noises
Yeah, we've
trigger
just
like
mentioned
social
that.
anxiety, some shit like that.
University, yeah. University's not Cambridge, I think it was, or Oxford or something. I mean, this is one of the things that really makes me worry. It wasn't like some shithole place in the middle of nowhere.
It wasn't
was
Oxford.
a major university.
I think it may have been Cambridge.
I think it was Cambridge.
Right, well,
they also tried to.
Cambridge is full of commies. Where do you think all the bloody double agents came from during the spy times?
Filthy.
Yeah, they were all Cambridge.
Theresa May.
Bunch of fucking commies.
Well, no. To wrap this all the way back around. Speaking of clapping, I'm still giving a round of applause to President Trump for firing Jeff Sessions. Just saying, ding dong, the elf is gone.
Well, if you want it properly.
The beauty of soundboards.
Thank you very much, Batman.
Yeah, jazz hands.
Well, no, and we only have a little bit left. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. Come on, memes. Tell me how President Trump shouldn't have fired the Keebler elf. Like, can you actually make a good argument here? I mean, I know you're a fence sitter.
Oh, I mean, strategically, it made a whole lot of sense just because now it's literally the day after the midterms. He's not hiding anything. It's very obvious what he's doing. So you can't say, he's trying to weasel in on a Friday. I mean, strategically, it makes a lot of sense. And to be fair, I guess I was starting to kind of buy what MC was selling there because I'm like, well, I mean, can they just... Are they doing the whole 5-dimensional thing? I'm like, nope. President Trump is as clear as he could be. He's like, where is our attorney general? And he asked him to resign. The guy resigns. Would there be a good reason for it? Oh, maybe it would affect the integrity of the particular Mueller probe. But here's the thing. I don't really think President Trump really did anything. If he had done something that was really drastic, I'm pretty sure we would have seen it by now. Could there be something? Sure, but I really doubt it. And just... My dad always said the best defense is the truth. And if President Trump really didn't do nothing wrong, aside from just being Donald Trump, then, I mean, you can't impeach or throw a guy in jail for just not liking him. At least you're not supposed to.
Well, no, the thing is, with the Keebler elf, his stance on marijuana was diametrically
that's if that's going to be the new policy President Trump wants to push, that's another big green reason.
Well, I mean, we haven't even touched on that, but marijuana won hand over fist in every fucking state that it was up for, except for, I think, North Dakota was the only one.
It was either Dakota or Montana. Actually,
no, it won in Montana. It lost in one of the Dakotas. I don't know if it was North or South, though. And like, that's actually a pretty damn good point. I mean, we're like, especially here locally here in Kansas, since Colorado legalized, Kansas was about 1.5 years behind before it decriminalized because we had so much legal pot coming through Kansas, and it's already our #1 drug conviction, or was. I mean, we had an entire state prison for pot offenses alone.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to spend on folks having a couple of joints.
Oh yeah, that's part of the decriminalization is the fact that
Maestra, why the fuck aren't the libertarians winning hands over fist in Kansas? Then I mean,
what are you talking about? I just told you that they swept the left side of the market. Like that's it. The Democrats didn't bother fielding anything in the state. Anything in the state. They didn't bother to run here. They didn't care about the state at all. So the libertarians are now the left-wing party, I guess, here.
Oh, that's so weird. Yeah, like I'm a right-leaning libertarian, so that's weird to me. But
I'm a centrist libertarian. I'm 0.73 left and 0.9 something right. I'm not exactly a staunch left or right libertarian on that axis. I'm pretty much a centrist, and Like that's what I was saying earlier, where the Republicans, at least on a national level, stand for the left-ish, the center left, the center right, the right, and the extreme right.
Yeah, but no, this is the problem, isn't it? Nobody stands for anyone in the center. If it was, you actually might get some, consistent and coherent policies. It's always these extreme fucking, you've got the extreme right wing, and then you got the bloody, the crazy liberals, with their insane policies. I mean, we got these. I mean, they are juxtapositions. Nobody's actually representing the middle. That's where the problem comes in.
Well, see, that's the interesting part, because the Democrats have gone to pretty much democratic socialism. What I was talking about with 40.
Well, you got that Cordes woman.
Yes, you got a democratic socialist. She's just to the right of the Green Party, which are avowed open communists. She's to the right of that, and barely. So the Republicans have been fielding from the left to the center left and to the right of that. So, like in Kansas, for example, where the Libertarians took hold, was at least this election was replacing the Democrats as a centrist party, but they're the left-wing alternative as a centrist party. Like that's what was so weird. The Democrats didn't run a single fucking seat. A single seat, even in county elections, they didn't run anything. There was no money spent in Kansas at all. That is a first in the state.
Wait, there was nobody on the ballot for her?
No. Same way that there was no Republican.
So the Libertarians poured all their effort into there, but the people that are voting left and they're voting Libertarian, do they not understand our economic policy? Like, I mean, do they
the 12 leftists in Kansas probably voted for the Green Party candidate.
Because I remember a story about the Kansas. Didn't it go completely kind of like Atlas Shrugged? And
That's exactly what we did. That's exactly what we did. Because
it didn't work out too well, did it?
It depends on who you're asking. If you're asking a Kansan, it worked out fine. If you're asking anyone else in the country, they seem to think that we're living in some third world shithole where we have the fastest, cheapest internet in the nation. Quite literally. I mean, almost. Okay, so most of the nukes, at least the ICBM nukes that we still have, are around the Big Red 1 in Riley or in Kansas City. This is why Kansas City was the #2 nuke target for the Soviets. And because of that, we actually have a Cisco node here. One of the 3 American Cisco nodes, not the one we built for you guys in the UK for NATO, is in Kansas. The other one's in Washington, D.C., excluding the one that's in Silicon Valley. So unlike the one in Silicon Valley or the one that's fueling the East Coast, there's nothing running off the Cisco node. I quite literally get Google Fiber for less than $19 a month, and we have free internet here in Kansas. Think about that. My free internet is high-speed broadband internet. That's free.
Sounds like communism.
Period.
Sounds like communism to me.
No, as somebody that has to use CenturyLink, go fuck yourself right now.
Man. Location. But no, like I was saying, Cabbage, it depends on who you ask. Kansans, depending on if they're one of the 12 leftists that I mentioned, they probably hated what happened. But we had a very laissez-faire capitalist moment. And that was brought on by the Koch brothers, because most of their industries here in Kansas. Their world headquarters here. Their campus is here. I mean, Hayes campus is Coke Town, and it's fucking disgusting, but whatever.
Real quick, you brought up the Koch brothers. I don't know why everybody hates on them. They actually donate a lot to the Libertarian Party, and I believe they are a fairly good influence. Unlike the fucking founder of Nike, who donates a lot to the University of Oregon, funds their whole football fucking squad every year. I believe he's more of a toxic influence.
I think I used to live down the street from that guy.
Well, I can understand some of the gripe just because they are billionaires and they spend their money, and for that regard, people get pissed. But quite literally.
How are you going to have trickle down economics if they don't spend the fucking money?
We don't run a trickle down economic state. That's a conservative ideal. That's not how we do it here at all. Like, there are so many misconceptions about my state. It's weird. Fuck that guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just heard about this Atlas Shrugged thing, and it all went to shit. And the state ended up bankrupt, and it was fucking a basket case. That's the last thing I heard.
What they don't tell you is that we had 2 F4 tornadoes come in and tear out the most built-up parts of the state, and we did not get National Guard or federal FEMA assistance to rebuild it, and that caused almost 3 years of bankruptcy in the state while we rebuilt most of Wyandotte County, which is Kansas City, and a good bit of Topeka, which is the state capital. I mean, we lost both of those in F4.
You guys didn't get any help?
No.
I remember some of the stories.
Yeah.
Like, they were big,
no. Sebelius, at that point, bitched out the fact that she wasn't getting help, and Obama upgraded her to Department of Health Secretary. And then there was
wait.
Yeah.
Doing federal funds, he gave her a promotion.
Yeah. And nobody bitched about what was going on in Kansas anymore, and we were left to our own devices. So it took us about 3 to 5 years to completely rebuild what we lost. And
I mean, we're not in Kansas anymore. That's all I'm gonna say. There's no place like home. But anyway.
Oh my god. Do you know how tired that is? We actually have a state museum to the fucking Wizard of Oz, and people that live here hate it to the point where you can go there for free if you have a state ID. And it's not
I'm surprised.
it's not. You get these wackos that come into Kansas to go to the fucking museum, and they're expecting us to still be living in sod houses and shit. And it's like, what are you talking about? I live on 5 acres.
What, are you guys hobbits?
Yeah, it feels that way. Oh my god, Jesus!
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's not actually mandated that you have to go to the Wizard of Oz museum every so often.
Wait, no, there's a very important question here. Where is your yellow brick road?
No, and I'm gonna drop a house on you. But anyway, moving on.
Christ, fuck you guys. Whatever. No, it's really interesting, Cabbage, because like a lot of people really think that we are somewhere, we're flyover backwardness, and it's like, do you guys not realize that out of the Kansas wheat export, Kansas is responsible for 40% of it alone? That's our international export. That's above what we feed to the rest of the country.
That's the thing I didn't get, but I mean, I know there's not necessarily a massive profit margin in agriculture, but all the stories I've ever heard. I mean, and it clearly shows you the media perspective, because the only thing I knew about it was that. Yeah, I mean,
here. Let me give you. So
you've been getting bad press. That's all I'm saying. You've been getting a lot of bad press. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no. I like we're flyover country. People but here, like each one of my duplexes has 2.5 acres of square land. I own 5 acres of land for 2 duplexes. Like, that's huge. But the amount I pay in taxes is not even equivalent to a 1/4 acre plot on the East Coast or the West Coast. I mean, I charge in rent for one of my duplexes less than $1,000 a month, and that's a 3-bedroom.
But come on, what is the income in Kansas compared to the land costs and everything? I mean, rental costs in New York or Los Angeles are going to be fucking ridiculous.
A third in the nation. Like our we use the federal minimum wage because we're required to, but a living wage in Kansas is about $5.50 an hour. If you really want to minimalize it, at $7.50 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage set by Obama, you can literally own your own place on one job. If it's an apartment, you can rent, and you'll still have money left over.
It shows
up. It's that cheap. Like the places where we get screwed are things that we cannot fix the prices on. So grocery store. electronics
over there. I mean, me and Cabbage are old enough to remember when. Well, what we heard about Kansas in the UK was that it was the breadbasket of America.
It is.
Oh, it's just called a flyover state.
Yeah, no, but it absolutely is. Like
it's not just a flyover state; it's all the Rust Belt as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they're hardly complementary names, are they?
No, they're not.
Kansas produces more wheat and more grain per year than the entirety of the Ukraine. Think about that.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of profit margin in it, unfortunately.
No, there's not.
Agriculture's
well, here in Oregon, we grow a lot of grass seed. Like, should I be proud about that? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well, is it your primary economy in the state, Mad? Because we're an agro state. That's our primary economy. The reason why we have...
if you're looking at my local area, the Willamette Valley, I'm up in the Cascade, yes, but still, I grew up in the valley. Down there, grass seed and a little bit of manufacturing, cabinet shops, sawmills, shit like that.
Artisanal work.
I have always said you were a valley girl.
Well, I mean, conversely, though, a little bit of other Kansas trivia most people don't know. Kansas is also responsible for the slaughterhouses that slaughter 72 out of every 100 head of cattle in the United States. So, I mean, that is the other main industry is cattle slaughter. This is part of the reason why we were so opposed to the pipeline running over the aquifer, is because if you poison the aquifer and we can't grow wheat and we can't grow barley, the whole country is going to starve. And personally, if we
drown the cows,
intrastate tariff act, so that way we could sell wheat to other states at the same market, Kansas would be the richest state in the nation. We are forced to sell wheat at a $17.90 price. We are required to sell wheat per metric ton at 8-10 pence a ton.
Oh, yeah.
What?
That's the same thing. No, we got the same shit over here, and that's one of the problems with the European Union. That we have this thing called the Common Agricultural Policy, and it totally fucks up every other. I mean, this is why, literally millions of gallons of milk getting poured down the drain.
British beef or lamb going to France used to regularly get hijacked and burnt by French farmers, if you remember.
That's right, the sheep. Yeah, used to have sheep running around in France and Calais, on fire because the sick French fuckers had, ignite them.
Yeah.
I thought France is still on fire, but that had to do with their immigration policies. But maybe didn't Macron lose the point recently and call for the European army to be formed by the EU?
Oh yes, the thing that they claimed would never happen before the Brexit.
No, but they made a teaser trailer, and like we saw for Deadpool, it eventually comes to be.
Right, Cabbage, that's another reason we need to leave the EU as quickly as possible, because if we go with May's fucking plan, then we really would remain in the EU.
Plan? There's a plan? Are you serious? What is it? I've not seen it.
Dual barrel rules.
We will be handing over control of the British military to the European Union.
They can fuck themselves.
Oh, no.
That one.
Hey,
absolutely not.
No. Wait a minute, you guys. That can't go bad at all. I mean, it's not like the Germans tried to conquer before. It'll be fine. Go ahead.
I mean, the thing is, the first thing we've got to do is, if we get out, we got to fuck up the French. We got to effectively clear out their nuclear.
Wait a minute. Wait. Whoa. You're gonna do the Brexit, and then you're immediately going to war with France?
Fucking A. Yeah. It's the only natural solution, because you can't leave the Germans with a fucking nuclear arsenal. It's just not safe.
No nuking France. Let's avoid that if we can.
No, the best thing to do is convince the Muslim population of Europe that nuclear power is haram, and they'll get rid of it themselves.
Well, see, as an American and the UK being our primary ally in NATO, that's terrifying. I really don't want American forces through NATO clashing with Lithuanian forces that are conscripted under the EU. We always that's not going to cause problems at all. No, the Polish have our back. It's all good. Yeah, clearly. And I'm sorry, but I find it rather amusing that after an international banking conspiracy, Germany ended up in financial control of. That's pretty fascinating.
One thing I'm going to say is,
and now wants to develop an army, of course, because they need it because reasons.
I don't think that the EU is going to last.
All we need is one more country to leave.
Have every way to last.
Yeah,
all we need is one more country. Seriously, just one more country to leave. Even if it was Greece, I mean, and Greece was just to devalue its currency and just leave and say, fuck it, we're out. Or Italy, or Portugal. Yeah, I mean, small, wouldn't have to be a big country.
Cabbage, Greece can't do that. They don't have control over their economy anymore. The EU took control of it and bankrupted the place.
Well, yeah, but I mean. So if they just devolve if they devalue, like if they reintroduce their own currency, they go back to what the fuck was it? The drachma. Yeah. So if they go back to the drachma, devalue the currency. I mean, the thing is, they're going to have to live within the means, aren't they?
Yeah. And the other thing that the EU's done to Greece is they basically turned it into an Islamic ghetto.
Well, that's what I mean. So if you can get one other country. Doesn't matter where it is, just one other country. Poland would be great. Hungary would. But unfortunately, they're not showing any indication that they're going to, they're really pushing to leave.
Hello, Bueller. Okay. God damn it. First off, Romania and Poland are both showing signs that they wanted to leave the EU.
No,
they're
not.
How about Catalonia?
No, they're not.
Yeah,
no, they're not. No, Catalonia is looking to break away from Spain. It's not looking to break away from Europe.
Yeah, I love the Basques. They really fucking put a zinger on the Spanish back in the 80s because they applied to the fucking United Kingdom to be part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because like Gibraltar. We already got precedents.
Hey, I still gotta keep that rock. But actually, no. If you want to stop the creation of an EU army, you need to take the principles of the internet that we've learned. That often, whatever Sargon touches as far as memetics, he ends up destroying. So what you do is you create a whole bunch of excellent memes of the EU army and just affix them with Kekistani symbols.
Oh, come on. Don't take away my Kekistani-dom. That was a great little bit of trolling on the internet.
No, you let the lore fully come by. You let it fulfill its. Let it be like Darth Vader and die a decent death.
I said this years ago. Going back into the days of Ogre's channel, I said, it's fucking, they should just bury the thing and let it die in, with some dignity. And they keep fucking dragging the poor bastard back out. The poor frog. It's like Pet Cemetery now.
I thought you were literally just going to cry.
I'm crying inside.
Hey, Cabby, do you know D-Way?
I know D-Way. Oh, he should definitely have Knuckles. Knuckles, that meme missed its opportunity. I don't know why people didn't adopt it.
For those in the UK, I got a question. If typing something on Twitter constitutes a hate crime, does saying it across Google constitute a hate crime for your hate speech?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
No, that would be worse than that. That's probably mass murder.
I was just wondering because I still can't believe that the original creator of English common law and the concept of speaking on a soapbox now says mean words on the internet can get you in jail. I don't understand how you guys fucked yourself that hard. I really don't.
It's mind blowing, and it happened in such a short period of time too. Yeah. And nobody saw it happening. That's the weird thing. Nobody saw it happening. It just suddenly happened overnight. That people were being, that all this shit happened. That you got police departments dedicated to chasing people down for Twitter posts and YouTube offenses.
What if you tweet standing on a soapbox?
The horrible thing about hate speech laws is who decides what's hate speech?
Exactly. Well, it's arbitrary, right? Because context doesn't matter anymore.
You don't
right?
want to be defining it.
See, here's the thing. I'm a free speech absolutist because I know from personal experience that if you let people talk, they'll let you know exactly how much of a bigoted asshole they are.
Yeah.
When you don't let them talk, that suddenly that becomes fruit of the forbidden tree, and it's something to seek out. And like the fact that someone as benign as Count Dankula is now in the same vein as like, oh god, the UK doesn't have it, but it'd be like the Ku Klux Klan or a neo-Nazi group because he said evil things and he's going to be punished for hate speech. Seems that you're devaluing it to the point that when the actual Nazis show up, what are you going to call them? What are you going to say?
Exactly. Yeah.
Hate crime now. I don't want it. I don't want misogyny to be hate crime. These laws are dividing us more and more. They're destroying community. They're destroying society. They're destroying the civilization we live in.
No, we're saying they're doing it through the education like we were talking about earlier.
Well, see, here's something I find amusing. If misogyny is a hate crime, then a woman that has internalized misogyny, is she committing a hate crime against herself? So wouldn't the government have a right to come in and re-educate her?
It's the use of these words as well. No, misogyny means hatred of women, active hatred of women.
Yes, but
active hatred of men.
I'm aware of the term, but misandry isn't considered hate speech as far as I know, unless something changed.
No. In actual fact, weirdly enough, there was a piece about that where the misandry was meant to be included in the hate laws, and they said no. But misogyny stayed in, but misandry was left out, which is interesting double standard.
That's sexist.
Misogyny.
Yes, just a touch.
Actual active hatred of women. Misandry means actual active hatred of men. But the way these terms are bandied about, it's about stupid things that aren't even hate.
Yes. And
here's the thing. Let me get in here.
A woman is the misogynistic act.
Well, yes, I'm aware of that, but technically under the Oxford English Dictionary, the word racist is hatred of another racial group for being that racial group. So it's not this power plus privilege nonsense.
Wait. Is it still that?
Yes, it is, actually.
Racism does, part of the definition also shows that racism doesn't have to be hatred. It just means considering that one reason.
Yes, but the dictionary is not an SJW equation thing. It's down to word definition.
Real quick. I'm going to debunk the power plus. I'm going to debunk the power plus privilege bullshit in the simplest way possible.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that we are talking about law. So law uses weird definitions of words because it uses almost an archaic, magical version of the word itself, because things in common parlance aren't used the same way as they are in law. So if it's described as misogyny in law, then it's a more archaic root of the actual definition of the term. So if you don't allow for misandry, you can have female misogynists. You know, that's where the whole concept of internalized misogyny comes from. I was partially serious, but I mean...
But no, here's the interesting thing: is the police and that over here, the actual police forces that do count misogyny as a hate crime, they classify things as unwanted verbal contact with a woman, unwanted sexual advances as fucking misogyny.
Oh well, I mean, Jesus. Jansen, do you remember that guy who got arrested? Well, no, he was cautioned or something just for looking through a window at a woman.
Real quick, before we segue out, let me just debunk power plus privilege because
seriously, seriously, let that sink into you. Yeah, this guy actually got fucking cautioned just for looking at a woman through a shop window.
Okay,
get it into your head. Realize that this shit is coming your way if you don't prevent yourself.
Anglican or Gaelic person, and not someone of Middle Eastern descent. Correct?
What?
Yeah, he was a Scotsman.
Okay.
In Glasgow.
That does not surprise me then. Holy shit. That's fucking racist to all hell.
And when
police spent a decade hiding familial grooming gangs, yet some dude, was he menacing? Was he sharpening his rape or something?
No, he wasn't sharpening his teeth or anything. He was looking through the window.
Hey, remember the aggressive engine ripper.
That's the thing, though. He wasn't even aware he was looking at her. He was just looking in the window.
Exactly. Yeah, but she took offence, and he apparently,
If he'd been a good-looking young man who was clearly had a bit of money, she would have been flattered.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's fucking retarded. Anyway, like I said, I just wanted to let that settle in. Sorry, I interrupted Doku there because I don't think you really thought about what I was saying, Doku. It was like, this is serious.
Oh no,
this shit could come to you.
I remember hearing about that story. Trust me, I'm already very well aware.
Yeah, but it could be coming to your doorstep sometime soon because there are lunatics like this everywhere, man.
We will put up with hate speech, actual restrictions of the First Amendment. That is not going to occur.
I hope not.
No, I do not see that happening in America at all. We have a constitutional right.
Give it a rest, Batman. Let him speak. For fuck's sake, Batman, shut up.
No, real quick. If you ever hear somebody say power plus privilege, just present them with this situation and watch the fucking gears in their head seize up. A black man walks past 3 Hispanic dudes beating the shit out of a white woman and decides to say nothing. Is she exercising some sort of power over a situation that she's observing? Does she not have power over the outcome of the situation by choosing to do nothing about it? Gee, I wonder.
On to that point, we actually have an interesting case coming up in America over how we handle hue and cry law, because there was a case, I believe it was either in Georgia or Florida. I cannot remember which southeastern state it was, but somebody refused to help when someone called because they did not wish to get sued because of, if they helped, it had to do something with the
Good Samaritan law. Yeah, that's how Seinfeld got canceled. They all were observing and recording a dude while he was getting mugged and laughed at him, and they all got thrown in jail.
Well, but this is a modern case because it's not over a rich celebrity. This is some dude who just did not want to open himself up to a lawsuit by getting engaged. So he just walked past and did nothing. And he's
that's
technically illegal here. You cannot not do anything. That's part of being a citizen.
That's the Good Samaritan laws.
To assist.
Well, and that's the thing when it comes to power plus privilege, and why I like using that example so much, because again, you'll see the gears in their heads seize up, trying to rationalize it. First off, I'm exercising privilege because I'm not the one being mugged. I'm not the one being beaten up. I'm not the one, I'm not the victim of the crime. So I'm privileged to not be that person. And I'm exercising power by choosing to do nothing about it, choosing to say nothing. So there you go, power plus privilege. Maybe prejudice is the only thing that actually matters.
Came from Tim, which is, I concur that Smith kids and Carlos Slim kids are not oppressed compared to a homeless white veteran. I mean, that's textbook Tim Pool, and that actually works really well for completely just fucking with someone and when they bring that shit up.
No, I thought the best way to zero out that equation was it's like, all right, so power plus privilege minus malice, and you're okay. Because that's what we're assuming in that equation, that there's a certain level of malice. If you remove malice from the equation, you balance it out, right?
You're not allowed to amend.
More specifically,
you're not allowed to
prejudice.
To amend the formula. You're not allowed to amend the formula.
No, cabbage. That's how we zero things out.
Miastra, what was trying to do earlier.
Yeah, they don't understand STEM, mate. They get complicated. It's just plus or minus. You can't. Yeah, I mean, multiplication is pushing them.
Yeah, Miastra, like I was trying to say earlier, was there are actually movements in the United States trying to repeal the First Amendment. Which is
I've heard of those, and the amusing thing is, right, like everybody bangs on it at America about our gun issue, right? And the thing that's funny is that proponents of the Second Amendment, those that support it, always say that the second protects the first. And I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that I will be joining the rest of my libertarian brothers and sisters in doing that very action if they try to revoke the First Amendment. That is the one part of the gun debate that I wholeheartedly agree with. Because your country that banned swords after the War of the Roses, my country never did that. We're allowed to be armed. We are an armed population.
We can still have swords.
No, they didn't ban them. They just turned them into plowshares. I mean, they basically used the steel to make plows. That's how it worked. Because there was only so much material available.
The first but second make us free.
And we can still own guns over here, but you've got to apply for the license. You've got to have them securely locked in your home.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting more to a larger point that you guys are dancing around, but
I agree.
There is a difference between having a highly armed populace.
Totally.
Populace that at best can Some dude got arrested for carrying a fucking can opener.
No, it was a potato peeler.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would not happen here.
But Maestra, it would never have happened here any time apart from now, because they are testing the laws. They're testing the laws, and they're trying to introduce these precedents.
About our countries is your country's 1,000 years old plus. Your Civil War was, 600 years ago? Your population hasn't bothered to rise up or reaffirm itself since the Magna Carta? Our country is still young enough. My country is still young enough that we still have LARPers running around pretending the Civil War is a thing. When they filmed the movie Gettysburg, they did not...
fuck you.
No, we have that. No, trust me, we have loads of reenactments about things like the Battle of Hastings and the Battle of
like that. LARPers about the Civil War. I guess I had to cut in there. Fuck off, dude.
Pretend to be General fucking Lee. God damn it!
No, he LARPs as a pirate. You got it wrong.
He's there in the middle of a field on a boat.
Somebody laughed. Are you telling me somebody goes around LARPing as an orange sports car?
No, I went to a pirate festival. Memes got me there. I went to a pirate festival.
MADDS turns up in the middle of fucking Gettysburg with a fucking boat and says, "I'm a pirate."
Well,
I think
you're a populace coming from the UK. Your government does not fear your people at all. At all. If the government was remotely afraid of its people, it would have treated Brexit seriously. And because it's not afraid of its people, it's not.
If the government was afraid, British government was afraid of the people, we would never have gotten the Brexit vote at all.
Well, there's really something wrong with this country. And if you see what I see.
You know why the Second Amendment is a bad idea in the United Kingdom? We have something you don't have. We've got chavs.
Chavs?
There'd be a lot of self-inflicted deaths through gunfire in the UK if we had armed citizens because of the chavs. They'd end up shooting
chives? The stuff you put on potatoes?
Chavs.
Oh, chives. Steve, got money out of your block.
No, chav.
What?
Chav.
American. What is this weird language you speak? What is this crap? Explain.
What's this white trash?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, they're usually like 18 or under.
Okay, so
very like you.
I still don't get it. Isn't that the stuff they eject from planes to stop missiles from heat-seeking them?
Well, that's chaff. It would work.
No, it's some ridiculous slang. You can't understand it. You speak proper American. It's fine.
Just think about David and Victoria Beckham.
Oh, soccer.
No, but without
take them back. Take them back.
We don't want them.
I don't want them. No,
but the point I'm getting at though is that when my country's still young enough that the government is still running sort of how it was established in having an armed populace keeps the government in check. Because as a country that revolted and just set up its own government, it did not want another tyrannical government. We are still a republic. Still. Now, it could be the waning part of our republic, or this could be another renaissance of our republic. It's still too early to call. But at this point, we are definitely still a republic. And as long as we are still a republic, and we are still working under how we were originally founded, the Second Amendment is still pretty much intact. Like, you cannot get the modern versions of war like you could when the original Second Amendment was written. So, I mean, when the Second Amendment was originally written, as a private citizen, you could own a cannon. You cannot own a howitzer or anti-air flak guns or heat-seeking rockets.
Hey, companies are people, so therefore Nabisco should be able to have nukes.
Don't tell me what I can or can't do. A nuclear
Might not be a good idea for the cracker company to have it.
I can't own a howitzer. I'm not moving to America.
Well, no, I'm saying that there are restrictions on the Second Amendment, but as much as people want to call an AR-15 an automatic rifle, which it's not, an AR-15 can still stand up to armed soldiers if we have to. All right. I do not wish to take a potato peeler versus the British SAS. I don't think it would go well. I'd much rather have an AR-15 with a goddamn bayonet that I can affix to it.
Miastra, you don't want to take a main battle tank up against the British SAS.
Yep.
Yeah, nor would I particularly want to go head-to-head versus an Army Delta or fucking Navy SEAL. My point being, though, is the fact that it can be done with the armaments we have.
Yeah.
And that's part of the point, is that if they try to take away the First Amendment, they would have to get rid of the Second Amendment first, and they would have to de-arm the populace first.
Yep.
You guys don't have the arms to even resist your government if you wanted to.
You would be surprised. Legally, no, we don't. But as Jensen there, that probably agree. Most people know where they can get their hands on some pretty decent weaponry if push comes.
Yes, you'll have butchering in street-to-street combat in guerrilla warfare versus a trained military, and the likelihood of winning is minimal without excessive death or prolonged
combat. The thing is, if push comes...
Real quick, though.
Hold on a minute. There, man. Push comes to shove. If there was an armed revolt in the United Kingdom, it's a high likelihood that most of the military would be on the rebel side.
Yes.
Possibly not. Being part of the military, though, is expensive.
I have a question, and I have enough to talk about.
And you're roboting badly.
So,
you're a giant robot, Mad.
My ass. All right, is that better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My question is this: do you think a armed militia can stand up to an armed military? Because we have the right to an amendment.
The way the Second Amendment is worked, a militia can get anti-flak, can get artillery pieces, can get military arms and equipment. So absolutely, I bet a militia could stand up to an actual regiment of the military. Now, maybe not a full regiment, but could probably stand up to a company pretty well. Now, what would happen if you had active roving militias? I have no idea. I would not want to live in that hellscape that would be the American Second Civil War. I'm really glad that our second Civil War so far has been a cold one. I don't want it to go hot. But I guarantee you it would go hot if they tried to repeal the First Amendment.
There's another point there if there was another British Civil War. Like I said, it's a high likelihood that a hell of a lot of the military would join the rebel side. Plus, it's extraordinarily likely that the Territorial Army would be on the rebel side as well. And nowadays, they're almost as well armed as the regular forces.
Well, I mean, that's also getting into how many of, like, in America, for example, how much of the military would go AWOL basically to join the rebel side because they don't think that the federal government still has legitimacy. I have no idea in either country. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about civilian populace versus the government itself. A better example in America would be the FBI SWAT and riot police versus the American civilian. would be a better one-to-one equation, because that's more of what I'm talking about is direct civil unrest, short of having an armed army.
Yeah, well, if you go on the route that assuming that the military will stay loyal to the government and the police force will stay loyal to the government, you're even in the United States, your rebels will be put down. I mean,
that would depend. I mean, for example, there is a huge libertarian militia presence in Kansas, and they've already gone through publicly what they would do if there was an armed revolt in Kansas, and the first thing they would do would be set the fields on fire.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How well would an American militia fare against cruise missiles with conventional warheads?
I have no idea. We actually haven't fielded our full military versus another first world military in my lifetime. I have no idea. Because all America runs in our foreign military service right now is strike teams and not large armies. Like that was the big thing I was purporting for activating the Big Red One and moving it down to the southern border, is the fact that we actually haven't used our Air Force ever on native soil. We haven't used our Navy or Coast Guard since the War of 1812. I mean, well, no, technically it was against the Spanish Armada that we used 2 Ironsides to sink all their wooden boats, but you get the idea. It was a couple centuries ago. I mean, I don't know how the standard American military would work in a World War II scenario. It's been 70 years. I don't know. I have no idea.
Here's the thing: there was a new military strategy that was adopted post World War II, and the idea was that you wanted a very, very well equipped, very well trained, very mobile military force that could move quickly, strike targets of interest, take away the enemy's capability to communicate, take away their ability.
Yeah, you're talking about founding of the air cavalry in Korea.
It went. It goes back to. I mean, it's basically high tech. That's what they wanted to go for, was to use technology rather than people where you could.
Well, it wasn't even just technology. That's actually just one part of the puzzle. Really what the goal of it was, and it's a very offensive strategy that comes from the idea of having a blitzkrieg or a lightning war. Yes. What you do is you attack any fortified defensive emplacements, you attack stockpiles, you attack supply lines.
Oh yeah. No. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's the particular strategy. But the thing that came out was that the actual requirements that you need in order to achieve those goals, which you're talking about, absolutely correct. That you take out communications, take out surface-to-air missiles, you take out command and control structures and things like that.
Supply lines.
But in order to achieve that, any supply lines that you can, but you achieve that through technological means, by using...
Here's the thing, it's not even technological means. It was called Operation Fast and Furious in 2002 when they actually tried it out with modern technology. And what it was...
Fast and Furious was not 2002. That's more like 2007, 2008.
Well, they re-opted the name, but that's the program that they're using. It's just now it had a name, but it was in place far before that.
Yeah, that's what
the idea was this. You use a smaller, far more mobile force to cut off the enemy's ability to resist. But that's the thing. It's not necessarily
what the SAS used. It's what the SAS used in like strike forces and things like that. But the thing is, they go in heavily armed and with the best equipment. That's the one thing that they always had.
That's the thing, though. You're not focusing on technology. You're focusing more on a well-organized group that is cohesive, well-trained, a special forces unit, essentially.
Yeah. That's fine if you're doing individual combat. Combat activities. But if you're looking at the overall strategy, like taking out command and control centers and things like that, especially from a distance, I mean, it's all been about a cruise missile can take out God knows how much. I mean, look at what the stealth bombers, took out in the first night, during the Desert Storm, the shock and awe.
Specifically, that's the thing. It's about mobility. It's about mobility and speed. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but that's the whole point.
about
You hit
cohesion.
hard. You hit hard with, and you hit all of the major points that you need to, but that's still dependent on the, like the advanced technologies that you're going to need, and then you can come up and use your, your practical forces on the ground. But in order to
Doku brings up a big point there, the organization itself. And Jensen, I actually have a question for you, Mr. Quinn.
Sure.
Back in the World of Warcraft days, when you're in a PvP battleground, which group ended up winning usually? The organized one, or one that may have just had some geared out people?
Organized all the way.
Organized one. That's
Well,
true in any MMO.
For all this thought experimenting, you guys brought up technology. I have no idea what would happen if we used drones in a military civil war in America.
Yeah.
Realistically, if we are willing to drone strike the American populace, screw the use the Obama doctrine that anyone between the ages of 18 and 55 is a combatant.
Well, maybe you'll get an Obama drone.
Well, that's my point, though. I don't think that really any populace could withstand that level of barrage.
Yeah.
Oh no, they couldn't. No way.
I honestly don't have enough faith in my fellow Americans that even if it came to another armed conflict, we wouldn't be nuking each other.
Honestly, just to answer your question, hold on, Cabby. Let me make a point real quick. Just to answer your question, Maestra, if an order like that ever came down, the first group that you would see infighting would be within the military. There would be a faction that said "fuck you" and would join one side, and there'd be a faction that would uphold the order. And you would see infighting within the military first and foremost. It wouldn't really, wouldn't bleed over into the population as a whole until that particular conflict, internal conflict specifically, which was resolved. Mad, you're roboing.
Oh,
bad robo.
Does not compute.
Naughty robot. Yeah, but I mean, if you ever had to use drones on your own population, I mean, at that point, your society's pretty much fucked up.
Yep.
I mean, it's really got to have got particularly bad for that to be occurring.
Well, it's just, I mean, if we're actually talking about United States military, armed conflict, we cannot ignore drone warfare. And realistically,
no, but I'm saying that if you get to the point of, even putting troops on the ground, I mean, like, remember Kent State and things like that, and that was just that was a local militia force, wasn't it? I mean, that wasn't even federal government forces.
Yeah, once that's government's lost control.
Yeah, I mean, you seriously, I mean, things are going to spiral from that point. If you, if you get to that point and then you're using drones as well, no. I mean, your country's already in a state of absolute fucking upheaval.
Oh yeah, no, I was going more for the difference in how if you look at our two populaces and the way that our populaces respond to stress within our own country. There is not the imminent threat of violence that you would have in America on the UK side. I just don't see it. I do not see the UK. No, really? I'm not talking about a bunch of drunk soccer hooligans, man. I'm talking about an organized, intensive response. I don't see
you don't know.
He doesn't.
I don't see that being nearly as effective because you don't have the weapons to do so. I just like that. That's the big thing that I'm.
Yeah, but the thing is, when it comes to street fighting, because this is where the real battle happens, is in the streets.
Yeah.
Right. You can't win an air war on your own streets, right? You still have to maintain, law and order and things like that. And I can assure you that when it comes down to just, a face-to-face brawl, I mean, we've already had it in many occasions. You need to look back in history and see. Moss Side, I mean, Brixton, Toxteth, the poll tax riots.
I'm not saying you guys are pussies. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying instead is, if you look at your guys' own history, when you guys have had, whenever the Welsh or the Scots or the Irish have risen up, you guys have had no problem with burning cities to the ground to make a point.
Yeah.
That wasn't the United Kingdom that we live in, though, that we've grown up in. That wouldn't happen now.
It's your country's history, and as I said, you're a 1,000-year-old country. I mean, you still have the monarchy as at least it's not empowered, but it's still a face. And you can go through like the royal annals of master smiths, for example, and see that there are female master smiths in 1073 because it's actually written in your history that they were there. You know, I mean, that's what I'm drawing from. Even if you look at the troubles that happened in Ireland, where you guys turned into a complete surveillance police state there were good amounts of it that is it M5 that's your local service? Because M6 is your foreign service, I believe.
MI5. MI5 internal. MI6 is
whole neighborhood dealing with IRA issues. Like, that was part of what they used for propaganda, was how willing you guys were to just set to fire any civilian population that harbored anyone that was deemed an enemy of the crown.
No, MI5 didn't do that kind of thing. Although MI5 did utilize, I mean...
then I guess I've been exposed to Irish propaganda then. Cause
the other thing is...
no, you see, they're talking about going back to the days of, like, Oliver Cromwell, when he went over and started burning cities and stuff, and they had prima nocte and things like that, which didn't really happen. But
Yastra, during the Troubles back in the 60s and the 70s and even some 70s, 80s, the United Kingdom's security forces, whatever you want to call them, they weren't just coming down on the IRA. It was also coming down on the Unionist.
Catholics in general.
Well, they were coming down on both sides, weren't they? Because both sides had the terrorist organisations. Now there was the provisional IRA, and there was the loyalists.
Yeah, and don't forget that we ended up kicking out, I mean, the Protestants. I mean, Cromwell, he ended up getting kicked out, which is why you ended up with America, because we ended up sending all the Puritans over there.
Well, that wasn't necessarily. But no. We're gonna wrap it up here. Any final thoughts, guys? Anything on the election or anything else you guys want to bring up?
We're leaving the door open so you can invade easily.
Yeah, please. Yeah, come and invade.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't mind. We'll be the 51st state.
We could definitely use another military protectorate. Look, if you do and you guys already speak English, so we just need to convert.
We invented the fucking thing, and we got some good tools too.
If you do it quick enough, we'll leave the kettle on. You can have a nice cuppa when you come.
That's right. We'll make you a brew, and but we got plenty of toys to play with as well.
Yeah.
It's not like we're coming empty-handed.
This is true.
It's not like fucking Puerto Rico.
real quick to the guys in the UK, we have invested too much in NATO, and this is what I told plenty of people I've talked to the UK about. We will support the UK if nothing else because we've sunk trillions of dollars into NATO. A single Cisco node costs America about $10 trillion to build, which is why Germany and China have failed in building and maintaining their own because they just can't afford it.
How do we do?
The biggest contributors in NATO, considering all the countries that are in it, the United States and the United Kingdom.
Well, and since Matt's trying to wrap it up, about the election, getting back to politics real quick, I would say that overall, this was not remotely a Democratic win in any way, shape, or form. As I said at the very beginning of the stream, this was a historic midterm election for turnout in America. I know this sounds sad to other places like India that has 100% voting, but we had over 50% voting on a midterm election. That's insane. That's absolutely insane that we had that level of turnout. And realistically, it wasn't a giant Democratic sweep. They barely took the House with plus 10 to plus 20, since there's 3 states that had automatic recounts triggered. So,
No, but also you also gained 2 seats in the Senate were gained by the Republicans. So I mean,
yeah, no,
there was a power shift there, and the governors too. The amount of governors you gained, governors.
Yeah, the amount of state houses that switched to R was a plus gain. The amount of state actual governments that switched to R was a Republican gain, and we barely lost the House, which is definitely something that Trump can campaign on over the next 2 years, especially since they're going to be reeing with PTSD and shit from the fucking. Oh man, no, that's a real thing. Actually, that's a real thing. Apparently, Democrats, millennial women are up like 80% in this particular chart if you break it down by gender and age demographic. But Democrats are overall 2.5 or 3.5% times higher a chance of having intense emotional distress because of the 2016 election, which is why they were burned out in the 2018 election. And that's not going to go away. So all in all, I'd say this was a pretty goddamn good midterm.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, no, I can.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Goku.
I'm surprised the Republicans. I'm surprised the Republicans didn't get the House though, as well, because I don't know. Maybe people got a bit apathetic because everyone was reporting that the Democrats weren't going to get their blue wave, so people didn't go out and actually vote.
It shouldn't be surprising, Cabby. Usually about at a minimum 30 seats, but usually around 40 to 50, sometimes 60 seats flip. During the midterm. The fact that they only managed to even squeeze past what they needed to take a majority control speaks volumes.
The last time that a single party maintained this, especially for this turnout, I mean, it's unheard of, but the last time that the party in the presidency, this is why I said the opposite to the presidency party a couple hours ago, was Reagan in '82. So, I mean, it's been 30 years of it being a constant flip of, the Senate and the House. So losing the House by a margin of 10 to 20 is really nothing, since it's our House of Commons, and I think there's 418 representatives now.
But what is this?
But I think it would be brilliant if California turned red as well.
Yeah,
honestly, the fact that we even gained seats in the Senate is actually surprising. That's only happened 2 or 3 other times in history.
But can they realistically block everything now? I mean, is that realistic?
Yeah,
they just can. That margin of but I mean,
they can do it. They can do it, Cabbage. But if they do, they're going to be feeding the Trump narrative of absolutism and give me a full.
Wouldn't it just be counterproductive?
Yes, I think it would be. That doesn't mean they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot and howl at the moon because President Trump got elected. But to the point of California, real quick, before you guys, Republicans would have had to have run a candidate in California, much like how the Democrats didn't even run in Kansas. There was no Republican on the ticket. It was Feinstein versus another Democrat. So those were your choices: was a Democrat shill Feinstein or a Democratic socialist on the other side, and he got almost 40%.
And also, I wanna just give everybody a reminder. Remember, the only difference between socialism and democratic socialism is you get to vote for who tells you who you have to give your money to after you're done working your 12-hour job.
Yeah, like the Republicans have got a majority now. Let's hope they use it intelligently.
Democracy.
That's a big wish. It's not Christmas yet, Miracles can't happen right now.
Yeah,
we got a while to go. You can put it on your Santa list.
It's just over a month away.
Yeah.
Democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep fighting over. Good luck and don't fucking move to France.